For all of the attendees, we're just waiting. We just concluded another community board meeting, and so we're just waiting for all of the board members and the committee members to join. Give us just a few minutes.
Thanks, Carter. Thanks, Carter. Can you hear me, Carter?
I can.
Good.
Give me 1 second and I'll put you in the
Yep, I see it.
co-host there. I've got you on here twice, so I don't know if
oh, that's
you,
Georgia. I sent Georgia the link that was specific to me. I can change her. I can
I'll just.
Thanks. My link wasn't working.
Yeah, we were late coming out of another meeting. We got a lot of attendees.
Yeah, I'm just going to work through and just get this all. So
Cool.
if any of the board members or attendees, if you could just raise your hand. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Carter.
Carter, I think you made me. You got to make the other me host. I think when you get through.
Do I?
Yeah, I made it. I did a mistake. I gave Georgia my link, so she's coming through with me. So I can rename her. I can rename her when I'm the host there. A lot of participants, lots of people. It's like you would think nobody has anything else to do. That's a pandemic joke.
Yeah.
Hey, Jen.
Hi.
Okay, good.
All right. I think we're getting there. Okay. I think we're getting there.
Okay, so I for So you want me to put all the speakers tonight, move them up now, or do you want to wait until you call each other?
Yeah, yes, please. There's Oliver, Arlene, Ricardo, Cheryl, Woodruff. I can send that to you, but let me kick it off if that's okay. Can we get started? I think we have a lot of people here. Welcome everyone to the June 2020 CB2 Manhattan Parks and Waterfront Committee meeting. The meeting, this one is, I have to start with by saying that some asked if we should cancel or change this meeting to focus on perhaps more immediate concerns during these trying times. You know, the expression of sorrow and rage and frustration, and for some for fear, you know, with the recent events of the last week, obviously on top of the pandemic that has really hit our city, and the economic crisis that, you know, most, if not all of our families are feeling or soon will feel. But I thought about it, and I talked to Carter about it, and we thought we should do what we've pledged to do as a committee, which is to make, you know, is to push for more open space and to make our limited open space as great as they can be. And so, and to steal one of our presenters this evening, Washington Square Park Conservancy's key, you know, their motto, to work to make our spaces clean, safe, and beautiful for our residents and for the visitors to our community. And I think the topics we have on our agenda tonight align with these goals. We have 3 topics. We're going to hear about a renovated park, or a hopefully a soon-to-be renovated park. That is a presentation about Mercer Playground, where New York City Department of Parks and Recreation and NYU representatives will discuss an updated design. And then we'll hear about a proposal by the same group to improve a small sidewalk area along Bleecker Street, adjacent to the Mercer Street area. And then we will hear an update by the Washington Square Park Conservancy on recent and upcoming activities. I ask you to bear with us. This is the second time meeting we've had on Zoom. This is actually the first time we've had it as our committee alone. We had a joint committee meeting last time. And we're still working through the processes of how to get questions asked and how to manage the chat. Please don't use the chat for saying mean things about each other, or we'll turn it off. But so just let's try to be as efficient as we can be and as nice as we can be on this. Before we get started, or as we get started, I still like to just introduce, or have introduced, it's going to be tough. I will try to do it myself and just say hi. The committee members that we have with us tonight. So if I could call out who I see on here, if you could unmute. Janine, say hello. Hello. Right. Who else is on? Georgia, please.
Hello.
George is there. Matt Metzger. I see Matt's on. He's muted. Believe me, he's there. Shirley.
I'm here. Sorry, my iPad froze. How's everybody doing?
Right.
Sorry to interrupt. Really.
It's good to see people that we haven't seen in a while. Shirley, you're there, right?
I am here.
Right. Susanna, are you with us?
I am here.
Okay. We've got, who else is it? Nancy, I see that you're with us tonight. She's on mute. Kristen, I think, is here. She's on mute too. These are all our committee members.
Hi.
Okay. And there she is. There she's. It comes up when we have some other board members too. Amy and Betty. I see Donna on. That's great. And I think now we're up to 92 total participants, which is great. As we get started, I think Arlene? Are you going to present the first? Arlene's there. Can we make?
Hi.
Arlene?
I am. I'm waiting. Ricardo just sent a note that he couldn't get on, so I don't know if you see him on the list of participants. Is it a different? I registered. Can I send him my link, or is that just specific to me?
No,
just have him raise. Ricardo, if you're just so people who aren't familiar with the Zoom webinar function, which is what we use, only the panelists. Video is active and microphones are active, and then as we go along, we can activate people's microphones when it gets to different times when they can speak by using the raise your hand function. But is Ricardo signed in as an attendee?
I don't see him on the attendee list there.
And he said, he just sent a note that his Zoom is spinning. So I don't know if he has the latest Zoom, because I know that was giving people issues. If you don't have the latest, let me just email him again.
We could have him call in if
anything, okay.
If that's easier, there is a call-in number. Will he be able to speak if yeah, we'll allow him to talk if he comes.
Yeah, he can speak, and I can just scroll through the presentation because I have it.
Okay, first, Carter, can we make Arlene?
That's done. She can share her screen now.
Great. Okay, thank you. I see a lot of, yeah.
And then there's a call-in number, you said?
Just a second.
If you send it on the chat, I could just send it to him.
Yeah, just a second.
Thank you.
Just hold on 1 second. I think it's in the.
Oh, is it in the meeting invitation?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It should be there.
Just looking through mine also.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Sorry for the delay here.
I'm if I can find it here, I can share it.
Yeah. Those who we have 5 call-in listeners, so there's definitely a number. I'm looking at the notice. Oh, well, I know what it is. Where I sent it to, they just sent it to Georgia. Okay, here's the number 646 518 9805.
And is there a password?
Yeah, the webinar ID.
Yeah, he'll need the webinar ID, which is 998-162-2200.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm sending it to him now.
Okay. And can you share and do a brief intro? I can do a little bit of an introduction. I'm supposed to do that. So we last heard about the plans for Mercer Playground at our February meeting. I know that seems a lifetime ago. It was only a few months back, and we saw a resolution.
Well, hopefully it'll go.
We wrote a resolution for about the proposed design for the interim renovation of Mercer Playground after that February meeting, and I guess the therefore was that we appreciated the funding from NYU and the efforts of the Parks and Recreation Department to renovate it, but we asked that that the proposed and presented design be updated to reflect some recommendations and concerns that were expressed at the meeting. And so that's what we, that's why they went back to the drawing board and they updated the presentation. Arlene, are you able to share?
Yes, sorry, I muted myself. Thank you, Carter. I am going to share right now. I'm just sending Ricardo a follow-up email. Sorry, guys. Just want to make sure that he sees that, and then I am going to share my screen. Share screen. Here we go. Share. Can everyone see that? Enter full screen. I think there we go.
It's coming up. Yep.
Great. So I'm just waiting on Ricardo because he's the one who's giving this presentation.
Okay.
I think
screen sharing still rendering.
Can you see it?
No, I can. It's still black with a spinning.
It's just black.
Resume share. Let's see. Oh. Let's try it again from the main page. Okay.
And let me see if
View, exit full screen. Okay.
okay.
Might
And
not want to have me do a full screen, but it's okay. Let's share screen. Okay, I'm trying one more time.
okay.
Oh, it works.
There we
There we
go.
go,
Okay,
yep.
Perfect. Let me see. I'm just checking my email. Maybe Ricardo's gonna call in instead.
Yeah.
And while we're waiting for him, maybe you could, looks like the left side of the slide is cut off. So maybe you can.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna do a full view, show chat. Oh, I'm gonna try to do full screen, enter full screen. Can you guys see that still?
Yeah, it still looks like it's, oh, must have, yeah.
I think it's just the top part because I don't have, it's shared through a computer feature. Unfortunately, my PDF technology isn't working, but you'll be able to see everything. It's not cut off. It's just a slide on the one page.
I think Ricardo may have joined because we have several more phone people. Ricardo, are you there?
Yeah, I am. Does this meeting have a password? I'm going to try a different route.
60606.
60606?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, I'll try that.
Okay.
Is there somebody preventing people from going in?
I don't know. We've got 82 people here. So.
Is somebody letting people in? Because my thing is spinning. It should. If somebody lets me in, I should.
I'm not sure that there's anyone that's being held up here.
Yeah. Can you try it from your phone? If maybe you have an old version on your PC.
We don't have a waiting room, so once you call in, we should immediately.
Okay. Well, I'm calling in, and I'm also trying to get into the Zoom feature at the same time, but it just keeps spinning and spinning.
And Ricardo, I'm here. I have the presentation up, which I know is difficult since you're not actually looking at.
Okay.
But
well, why don't we try? Should I try it over the phone then? Just
please.
Talk it through.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll go through as you tell me. I'll go through.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ricardo, you missed my brilliant setup. But we mentioned that we talked about this in February. You presented in February. We asked you to consider some recommendations, and thanks for coming back so quickly.
Okay. I'm trying to pull it up on my screen now. Hold on one second. Oh, there it is. Okay. So yes, we came in February, and one of the things that the community board had asked us to do, and I think it was a very wise request, was to do a master plan, because the design that we presented back in February, we thought was actually, well, you thought was sort of piecemeal, and the budget for our project is $385,000, and that includes soft costs. So that's design and construction administration and contingency. So the actual construction budget is actually much smaller. So one of the things we had requested originally to do a master plan, but we didn't want to take it too much out of the existing budget, and we realized that everything we spent on design would come out of construction. So after our February 3rd meeting, what we decided to do at Parks was to use our own Parks budget to do the design of the master plan, and I would do it myself on Parks time, on city time, as well as on my own time. Since we were on lockdown, I was able to do it at home without much inconvenience. So that's the design you're going to see today. If you could go to the next slide, Arlene. And so the scope remains the same. The goals remain the same. Our primary area of interest was the central multi-use area, which people had told us at the first listening session back in March of last year was used by older kids, preteens and younger teens, to ride bikes and scooters and even skateboards around. So we wanted to maintain that use and focus on that area. We wanted to use color, texture, and shapes to formalize that use and to enhance it and add more energy and fun and make the park more welcoming. One of the things we're going to do is open up one of the entrances along Mercer Street and then replace deteriorated pavement and eliminate some of the puddling. So next slide. You know where it is. It's on Mercer Street between Bleecker and West 3rd. Next slide. And this is the existing use diagram. And it shows what we had originally determined was 3 areas of use. To the south is a passive seating area. That's the way it's kind of used now. In the central area is the large active multi-use bike, scooter, skateboard area. And to the north, about 20% of the park was in blue, is currently being used for a little kid's spray shower. Next slide. One of the things we were going to do is combine the green and the yellow. Actually, go back to that existing use diagram, because we originally had perceived it as 3 parts, but then in looking at it again, we decided to combine the green and the yellow, the passive seating area and the active use zone, into a much larger, consolidated active use zone. Take out the passive seating and just have seating along the sides, not at the corner. And one of the things we had heard from the February 3rd meeting was that there was a lot of concern about that southern corner because there's a little bit of too much coziness. And we had heard that there's camping and pot smoking. So we actually nicknamed that passive seating area the Cozy Cannabis Corner. And we wanted to make sure to eliminate that use that people found was not something they wanted in the neighborhood. So next. So these are photographs showing the nature, the condition of the site. And on the right, you see the younger kids spray area in the northern quadrant, which is actually in pretty decent condition. So the fact that we're focusing on an area that doesn't include this makes sense. This area, I think, is still viable for now. And then on the left is the area that we are focusing on. This is the big area of bike riding and scooters and skateboards. Next slide. This is a condition, these slides show the condition of the pavement in the area that we are addressing around the entry gates that are always locked. These are, by the way, they're very wide, 17-foot wide double gates for access of FDNY fire trucks for emergencies, because this is actually where the closed off street was when the superblock was formed. And then on the right, you can see the condition of the granite block and the cracked pavement. Next slide. All right, so this is the design we presented back in February, exactly 4 months ago. And as you can see, it's a simple track, which is dashed in white, surrounding a bunch of painted rectangles, some of which are just decorative, some of which were painted games for younger kids. And just about everything about this was rejected by the community. But primarily because it seemed kind of piecemeal and you wanted a master plan that encompassed the whole site. So we're coming back with a master plan that encompasses the whole site. You wanted something that was more specifically used for bicycles and skateboarders and scooters. So and you wanted something that had more challenge and more opportunities for fun riding around. So we listened to you. We actually think your ideas were better than this one. And we had originally, very long ago, Langan and I worked together to come up with a different design that was then sidetracked. So we're going to go back to that original design, which is much more, has more of a curvilinear ride around nature, and that we think you're going to find much more acceptable. You were also not very keen on all the resources and the money that we were spending on pavement painting and wall painting. So we're taking out the wall painting, we're taking out most of the pavement painting, and we're going for permanence over paint. And then we're eliminating the benches in the cozy corner. Well, while the southern end is not budgeted right now, we are going to take this opportunity to take the benches out of that southern tip and relocate them elsewhere in the park, so that there's not so much of a cozy corner back there. So next slide. This is our master plan. It looks very different from what we showed you before. It's really, the composition is 5 ellipses, 2 at the ends. The one on the right, which is the northern end, will continue to be a spray shower. That of course is not in our phase this time around. The spray shower that exists will remain. And then the three in the center, this is the portion of the project that we're budgeted for, that we're going to do with the $385,000. It shows a large ellipse in the middle and two smaller ellipses on the end. And this creates just a lot more fun for kids on bicycles, scooters, and skateboards, because there's a lot more opportunities to go either around it or do a figure eight or go over it. Those numbers in the middle, the +18 and +15, those are inches high. Those are height of mounds, so that it allows kids to go over them. It's a very gentle slope, so there's also a plateau on the top, which just gives another, you can be on top, you can be riding over the slope. It just creates a lot more different play opportunities, but it's very much geared to wheeled play, bicycles, scooters, and skateboards. And then on the left is one more ellipse to complete the composition. And we were taking the benches out from the southern tip, and we're creating just a plant bed back there to mirror the plant bed on the northern tip, and relocating all those benches that are on the southern tip along the edge of Mercer Street. And then taking right now there are benches along the wall opposite, those low 4-foot walls. We're going to take some of those out as well, so that there's a little more room for the bicycling track. And then one other feature is permanence over paint. And the curvilinear bench pads on both sides are going to be formed concrete bench pads. So that's going to be a change in material. It'll add more permanence. It's not just painted asphalt, so it'll be there for a long time to come. And also the formwork allows us to make those curves nice and smooth and geometric. And then on the Mercer Street side, those bench pads are going to be broken up with plant beds. So we're enlarging the plant beds to give more room for the trees, and also to allow for some planting medium in case volunteers from the community want to put flowers in there and plantings in there, or the borough would be able to come at some point afterwards and put some plantings in there. Our budget is so tight that we're not even going to put any planting in during this phase. And then next slide. And this shows what we have funded on an overlay of what will be existing. So we actually think what's funded and what we're going to be able to do, the three ellipses in the middle, works well with the existing conditions, with the more organic shapes on the two ends, and it just maintains the composition that we're looking for in the master plan. Even in the short term, we'll maintain that composition. And then the next slide, please. So this is what it looks like on the left with the curvilinear path. And we're going to formalize that geometry, make it a little more smooth and elegant, and make it more permanent by making it with concrete on the right and having it formed. And then with the three mounds in the middle. And this gives an idea of the height of the mound. They're not very high, but they do add some fun for the kids. And then the next slide. It must be 7 o'clock. They're all cheering outside. Mm-hmm. The next slide shows the height of the mounds. And they're very low. They're only 18 inches. The highest one is 18 inches, which is a fairly gentle slope, and allows a little plateau on the top, so you can ride up the top and hang out on the top. And then the last slide just shows shows a bigger perspective of what the site will look like. And we're going to be forming the ellipses with concrete curbs, so that those shapes will be permanent, and they will be much more elegantly formed and much more exact. So that's it. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, can we start with questions from committee members? I think if you hit raise hand, we'll be able to call on you. Anyone? Am I seeing any raised hands? Not seeing any. Janine, are you seeing any raised hands?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Oh, down there. I'm sorry. Yeah. Down there.
Yeah. Matt Mercer.
Yeah. Let's go, Matt. Oh, I see you're first.
Back to the first slide.
No. He's the first one to ask questions.
Oh, okay.
This isn't so much a question as, I don't want to prejudice anything. You guys answered everything that I asked for. I like this design much better. I like the strategy much better. And I really appreciate you guys spending your own time over quarantine and spending the park's time. I'm incredibly appreciative. So I don't know, I yield back.
Okay. Kristen Shea.
Terrific.
Hi,
Thank
yes. Hi, yes, it looks great. But I just had one question about what are the mounds made out of, the green area? Is it?
The mounds will be made out of asphalt, so we're just mound
Gotcha.
asphalt, just similar to what was in Washington Square Park, except much lower than those asphalt mounds, and much more structurally formed, so that they're not as random looking.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay, you're welcome.
Any other committee members that would like to say anything or ask a question?
I have a question. I can't.
Go ahead.
I can't raise my hand because I'm now a co-host.
That's okay.
So I know this is a theoretical question, but what is the cost differential between concrete mounds and artificial turf mounds like you have in Washington Square Park or somewhere, or we might see in the future water tunnel parks?
It's quite a bit. I mean, these are asphalt mounds, so it's cheap material. Once you start getting into synthetic turf, the cost goes up significantly. It would probably add 20% to the cost. We're also thinking that since the intent was more for riding bikes and wheeled vehicles, that making them synthetic turf wouldn't have the same play value for the kids on the wheeled vehicles. Like, that part of the mound experience is being able to ride over them on your scooter or skateboard or bicycle. We also have restrictions at parks and through the Public Design Commission about doing small areas in synthetic turf. And they put a lot of prohibitions on us, the Public Design Commission, about doing small shapes in synthetic turf. They actually prevent us from doing that.
Okay, Susanna.
Okay.
Susanna,
I don't know if this is a design question or a usage question, but I mean, we have a lot of skateboarders, adult skateboarders in the neighborhood, especially in Washington Square Park. And I wonder if that's a concern for this. Is there any concern that older people will come in and sort of take over? It may not really be a design question, I guess.
I think what we might be able to do to address that through enforcement, because if there are signs on the gate saying, indicating a play, an age of play for this, we might be able to at least tell older grown-ups that they shouldn't be here, that this is mainly for preteens and young teens. I think 15, 16 might be the maximum age we'd like. At some point, I guess it's hard to tell a 17-year-old from a 20-year-old, but yeah, I think we could address that with signage.
Okay. Are we, Georgia, I think you were up. I closed my, yeah, we've got, Georgia, you still up? Yeah.
Yes, I have a question about the trees. You mentioned that the planting beds would be expanded. And I'm curious if they will be ringed in any way, because one thing that's happened in Mercer Playground and in playgrounds in general is that if the tree planting areas aren't protected, they are used as pathways and the soil gets compacted. And even if plantings are put in, they're still walked on. And so I'm just curious about what protective measures will be put in place around the expanded tree areas. Thank you.
Okay. That's actually a very good question, because we have changed at parks. We have changed our the way we look at plant beds, and we used to fence all of our plant beds, and now we fence plant beds only if they're in what we call a desire line. So if they're in a path of movement. So when plant beds are along an edge, we don't think of that as being in a desire line because it's not so much a path of movement. However, we can see that some of the curves some of the corners of the curves might be walked over. That might be, I think that would probably be the biggest concern we'd have. So we might adjust the curves so that when you're walking, you would not, there would either be a barrier to prevent you from walking over some of these corners, or we would soften the corners so that that wouldn't be a problem. But we don't any longer put fencing around our plant beds unless they're in a line of movement, unless they're in a desired line.
Thanks for that.
And that's a new thing.
I thought you meant to stop kids on bikes from crashing into it.
I think one of the things, because this is a bicycle, roller skate, skateboard, scooter zone, I think we're probably less inclined to want to put fencing because of the fact it might act as an obstruction that kids could bump into. I think that's a good point, actually. Yeah.
Matt, did you want to say something else, or did you just not take down your hand?
Just a quick question. Again, prefacing this with, I at least really like this and sincerely appreciate your guys' efforts. Is there anything that is included in this that can secure the north and the southern edges right now? Because I think that's a concern about security currently.
Well, right now it is surrounded by fence. When you say secure, you mean prevent people from going into the children's spray area to the north, or prevent people from getting into the park at night?
I'm going to leave. So this is not in my neighborhood, and I'm going to leave it to those who live closer to this to speak to that. But I know that we've heard issues related to safety and security at this location, and I'll keep it as
okay.
relative.
I think what we would definitely do is have it opened during the day and closed at night. So I think we're planning on having, for example, one of the fences along Mercer Street opened, maybe just one leaf of those very wide gates, because we want to encourage people to come into the park during the day, during appropriate park hours. But then we would definitely want that closed and locked at night. Right now there are entrances. Arlene, are you there? Can you show the plan?
Yes.
The plan view with the red ellipses, just so I can show where the entrances are.
Yep,
you can see at kind of the upper left and the upper right corners. Those are the entrances to the park now. What we're planning to do is lock the entrance on the upper left, which is where that cozy corner seating area is. So people cannot walk in there, won't be able to walk in there kind of unnoticed like they can now. And instead we would open the gate along Mercer Street on the left side. And if you can't really tell the gate from this design, but if you see where that red dash box is, that's approximately where the gate is on the Mercer Street side. So we would open that gate and then keep the corner gate open on the upper right, since that's a children's area. That way the children won't be mixing as much with the bike riding that goes on and the older kids. They can come in and out of that upper corner. So we'll keep the upper right corner, we would lock the upper left corner, and then we would open up a gate along Mercer on the left side. But then they would all be locked at night.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think we're ready to move on to
Wait, I have one more question, Rich.
There's three more
I'm
questions.
sorry. Gosh, more came
Second.
up. I looked away for a second.
Shirley has a question, and then Betty and Susanna.
Shirley, you up?
Oh, yeah. Oh, am I up? Okay. Yeah, about the color green of the ellipses. Was that chosen for a specific reason?
I think it was to give it the impression of like mounds of grass, like a little grassy knoll. Although that creates unfortunate implications as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a little grassy hillock. But it's because it's grass is a nice color. I mean, green is kind of a nice soothing color, we think.
I don't know, it just seems like
And
a lot of green.
what's that?
It just seems like a lot of green.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay. I mean, it could be it could be a different color. I think green. We heard last time at the last meeting that you didn't know, but people thought the colors were too aggressive, so we tried to tone it down a little bit.
Yeah, it's true.
Even the red colors that you see, those are much more. I think we're thinking more.
Yeah.
Those might be a little bit bright for what we're really intending, because I think we're going to make those maybe more of a terracotta, like a clay color. I think the intent was to make those look more clay than red. So it'll be more earth tone than it looks.
Yeah. Okay. Susanna, would you like to go next, please?
Sorry, having just raised this question about the skateboarders, I'm wondering if there's any consideration about opening this in the evening for skateboarders, or is that just opening a can of worms and 5 million complaints from the residents and stuff? We have all these enthusiastic skateboarders. They go into Washington Square Park because they don't know where else to go. But whatever, they go into Washington Square Park. It would be so great to redirect them somewhere and give them an opportunity. I'm guessing that also programmatically it creates a lot of problems. So.
I would say that that's an operations question that can be adjusted, and it could be experimented with to see if opening it up, let's say during at least the dusk hours, might take pressure off of the skating at Washington Square Park. But I think that's something that can be worked out with Parks M&O. Yeah.
Yeah, good idea. Good point.
Betty, would you like to ask a question?
Yes, sort of returning to the color question. I understand that this rendering was done based on feedback that the colors were too bright, but I'm wondering if perhaps this would increase costs, but if the different mounds were different colors, that might provide some sort of variety and will be in pursuit of the goal that you mentioned initially to sort of energize the space. Whereas now the green is a nice brightness, but perhaps like a differentiation of color might be nice. Was there any thought or consideration put to that potentially?
I'm open to that. I think maybe just have the central green and then have the two flanking ones be more of maybe a yellow or some other, maybe a tan, maybe some other earthy color, and then the terracottas on the ends. Yeah, that can be. I think that's a fair point, and I think we can make that adjustment. If everybody agrees, I'm fine with it.
I like it.
And I have one last question. If with the master plan, how would what would be the total cost to do the master plan?
I'd guess somewhere between $1 million and $1.25 million.
In additional funds or including the 375?
I'm thinking total, because there, I think maybe the northern end, because it has a little spray shower feature. It depends on the condition of the water infrastructure, and if we need a new RPZ and some of the other things, that might bump it up to $1.25 million. But I think I would normally say for a park this size, that's fairly simple, $1 million, and which is not cheap, but that's the going rate, it seems. And then every year we don't do it, you have to add a rate of inflation to that.
Okay, we ready to move on to attendees?
Yeah, and Rich, there's one question in the chat as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, why don't we call an attendee and I'll look at the chat. Lawrence, are you still there?
I can allow him to talk.
Yes, I'm here. Lawrence.
Great.
Do you want me to, am I on?
Yes,
yes, please.
Thank you very much. I'm a resident of 3 Washington Square Village with a 12-year-old skateboarder, and I want to commend you. It looks like a wonderful entry-level park in that it seems great for kids to learn to ride their bikes, but also maybe younger teens to experiment with skateboards and stuff. I think to someone's earlier question, if you are into challenges, the more challenging skateboarding things have more noise and more railings and more stuff like that. And there are places like Chelsea Parks to do that. So I commend you on it seemed to me serving a lot of youth communities here. A couple of quick questions. I think I was an outlier, but I loved in the previous meeting that the red, blue, and yellow, although perhaps depends, was very smart in some sort of palette, maybe a more nuanced palette that coordinated the brick facade of Washington Square Village. I thought that was a beautiful idea and made it feel like it was a community park that united the north and the south of Washington Square Village. So I would encourage you gently to experiment with that. I thought that was a beautiful idea and very nuanced. Here are my two questions, which are somewhat related. My memory, which somebody just spoke about, the previous meeting was, we liked this a lot, but we felt that the city or Department of Parks or the various council people whose domain this is could kick in more money to make this what it needs to be. And we felt you guys did a great job with a limited budget, but my memory of that previous meeting is we were saying the city really needed to step up and find some more money to make this be what it really could be. And I think, so I just throw that out there. And I am still extremely concerned with the wastefulness of the north. It's not even on this rendering, the schematic, of those daffodil prisons north and south of this that has never been dealt with aesthetically or practically. And it's, I think, a heartbreaking waste of space. And I've seen people, throw their dogs in there and go to the bathroom. So I would hope whatever further construct really, really looks into those. I know it's a matter of money, but I hope the city would see that what it is now is just not serving anybody in any practical way, in any practical manner.
Ricardo, before you answer, let me tie in a question in the chat because it was related to someone. Claire said, given that our city is now broke, I think she's referring to the $9 billion deficit, is the money for this renovation still available? So we're talking about, is this still possible before the comment just now is there more money available?
Okay. Well, as far as I know, NYU is still fully on board with the $385,000 that they are committed to contributing. So we're still good with the central portion that's currently funded. With regard to getting additional money from elected officials, I mean, it would have to be committed by either the mayor or the city council member or the borough president. That's where most of our money comes from. So that they would have to be lobbied. And as a matter of fact, we were going to show this design to some of the elected officials as well as a way of hopefully getting more money from them. I think NYU was spearheading that. So we are still looking into that through NYU. And then as for the daffodil prisons, I mean, I agree that maybe the fences are a little too high for a plant bed, and maybe they make the plants look imprisoned. But those plant beds are actually not in bad condition, and we see them as gardens, and we see them as much needed green space and planted material, green material within the city fabric. And they also house some very large trees, some medium-sized trees as well. So there wouldn't. We are very reluctant, if not resistant, to doing anything that impacts or harms our trees. We can see maybe that it could be planted a little more lushly and have more of a seasonal display. But we didn't really address that in this design. We think that's a separate entity that we didn't think needed to be changed to a large degree or added to this particular design, because we think it serves a purpose of providing plant material and trees and canopy to the community. So we don't want to mess with that too much. Yeah.
I've moved Simon Green in. Are you there, Simon?
Yes, I am indeed. Can you hear me? Thank you very much for all the hard work involved in this, especially with all the craziness. I not only live in the neighborhood, but I'm a board member at 77 Bleecker as well, and I face Mercer. My greatest concern is going to be security and noise, and I'm greatly appreciative that you did not add coping to those bumps, because if this park is supposed to be for younger people, the second you add coping, the noise increases.
Oh, right, no.
The challenge increases, and you know, I want to, and forgive me, I forgot which board member it was, but the idea of keeping this open later, that's going to lead to security. That's going to lead to moving the adults and kids out of Washington Square and into this park. And I am greatly concerned about the age range and the noise, which travels right up Mercer Street. And I'm hopeful you're going to take that into consideration here of not adding any coping and keeping it younger and not making it open at night, because at night is when the cozy corner becomes more cozy. And I would also say that the benches against the Key Park also end up being a cozy place too, especially during the evenings.
Okay. All right. Well, I think it will be the voice of your community board and your parks committee that prevails as to whether, how late we keep this open. So, whatever you determine is the most appropriate, closing time, we will acknowledge and comply with.
And there is no intent to add coping, correct? Because
none whatsoever. The only thing that is it's edged with a concrete curb to give it form, but that concrete curb is flush. It's not a coping.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
No.
Yep, no coping. As I said, my concern is the noise and the age range of people who will come in to the park.
I think we can try to guide that with signage and enforcement, but it's, that's all we can do, really. We're not going to have somebody checking people's IDs at the door, at the gate.
No,
but we can, if we see somebody who looks really out of place and there's, park enforcement nearby or parks employee, they can ask them to leave, to go, that this is more for, younger teens and preteens.
Can I just clarify, just for the notes, do you correlate older kids with more noise?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Especially as somebody who makes use of Washington Square Park and is dodging the skateboarders who use every single surface to ride upon. And also I think signage is nice and well-intentioned, but I don't think I've ever, in the years I've lived here, noticed a park department's person doing any sort of enforcement in that park.
Okay. I mean, I don't want to throw that point too much. I don't want to force that point too much, because I know that we're not staffed to the extent that we need to be to enforce something.
Right.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you letting me ask the question. And again, my concerns are, as somebody who faces the park, would love to have my windows open. The amount of noise that's going to be generated and the people that are going to be using it is a great concern.
Okay. Yeah, because the bigger the kid, the heavier they are, and the more noise they make on the skateboards, I think, is part of the problem.
Yep. Thank
you.
Okay.
Janine, can you call the next one?
Yeah, the next person is Sharon Elmog. You are ready. You are on the board. You should be able to speak.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi. So we also live across the street and have for quite some time, and have had our children grow up, and now we have teenagers. One of the highlights of the park, and I know that you're looking for something for young teens, and of course it's appreciated, but one of the highlights has always been the kids who've been able to throw a ball back and forth with their families and their friends. And it seems now that it may be a little bit on the dangerous side for the medium, the young, maybe just between those who use the park and those who are preteen, who have really enjoyed the park so much that space is now no longer anywhere, and maybe I'm reading it wrong, but I don't see a spot to just toss a ball and to run around safely. I do see, the bikes, and our kids learn to ride there, and the middle section with the 18.5, I guess, inch incline, which of course the skateboarders, the older ones, well, I don't think it will be as appealing because they like to jump and do all of their things. But I was just concerned about that. The other two things, the entrance on Mercer, where I guess where the fire lane is. So we have seen, especially with the city bikes there and all the traffic that goes along Mercer, which just gets heavier and heavier, it's really quite a danger zone. And if you're having kids, I just wonder about that versus on the side, the two side entrances that you've had, also because it is a fire zone. If you would have a gate that they would have to stop and open and go through and then close, just an awareness of that. Those I think. And then the other thing is this park for all of these years over by the water areas on the north and south, a lot of indigents, and it was interesting because when my daughter looked at this and she said skateboarding park teenagers, perfect place for pot smoking and bad behavior. And, that's going on now, not with the teenagers, but by the water park and water area in particular, because I speak to what Mr. Green said about the safety issues of this park and of people really making it their place of residence, unfortunately. So those are just some concerns from somebody who is watching that park all the time and had loved it. And I just don't want to see some of those kids in between pushed out.
Okay. I mean, I could talk about some of those things. Right now, as for the FDNY fire access corridors, they will be so infrequently used. I mean, it's like when there's a fire inside the Washington Square Village is when the FDNY will need to access those. So we're not anticipating that that's going to be something that's going to be used very frequently. And when it is, everybody will know it's happening, and they will all be cleared out. With regard to the kids playing just casual baseball, or just catch, I think there might be opportunities for them to play catch on between mounds or on the bigger green mound. Since there will be a little plateau on top, we'll make sure that it's a little plateau. That would actually be a kind of a safe, fun place to play catch. It's fairly constrained and limited in area, but and then also in the northern portion with the little kids spray, that would be flat, and during the non-water season, which is most of the time, that could be used. That would be a flat surface. We could also open those double gates so that the entire park could be used by the skateboarders and the bicyclists when the kids are not able to use the water play. So that's one other element of it. You had one more question. I forgot what it was. The seating and the pot smoking in at the northern end as well as the southern end. We were told mostly about the southern end pot smoking, but in any case, there are two benches on the northern end currently that we are taking out, and we're putting them along the sides. And I think putting the benches along the sides exposes the activity that takes place there a little bit, because you're either facing the street, you're sitting on the bench facing the street, or you're right on the street, your back is right to the street. So those are a couple of the strategies that we're using to make it less comfortable for you to engage in illicit activity.
Okay. All right, well, thank you.
Rich, do you want to go to more public questions or go back to the panelists?
If we have a member that would like to ask a question,
We have Georgia and Michael. Georgia Severa Stevens.
Hi, this is not a question, but a comment in support of keeping those planted gardens at the north and southern end for all the reasons that were given by parks because of established trees and shrubs and herbaceous perennials. You know, we talk a lot about stormwater management and urban heat island and climate change, and these are established vegetated areas that should remain. And so I just want to support Parks' decision to keep those intact. Thank you.
Thanks.
There's Michael Levine.
Yes, I have a question related to something that's been discussed. Can you hear me? Yeah,
yes.
I have a question related somewhat to a few matters that have been discussed already related to skateboarders. I did not see the original presentation, so I'm not sure how you've considered this, but is the entire park open to skateboarding, or will there be any attempt to limit skateboarding to certain areas? The reason I ask is that Washington Square Park is frequently completely dominated by the skateboarders, and this area is significantly smaller. So I'm wondering if it is possible or contemplated that in the master plan there's a way to indicate separate areas for skateboarders as opposed to other active activities. So,
all right. We talked about the skateboarding and the use of the area by people, by kids that are a little older than the goal. The only thing we've come up with so far is signage. I think we're starting to blend into the conversation around design versus sort of operational management, which is valid. I would try to relate the questions to proposals because we haven't thought through the operations. If there are concerns about the operations or how it might be utilized, maybe we can present those as ideas on how to modify the design or affect the design, because as I said, all we have so far is signage and some sort of hope that enforcement might be able to, you know, drive adherence to the signs with all the related comments about whether that's going to happen or not. So okay. Yeah, so no, we can ask the question different ways. I'm not sure that we have a good answer for how to limit skateboarders.
All right, thank you. I appreciate the answer.
Yeah. So it's not really an answer, unfortunately.
Next we have Heather Banub. You're with NYU, right, Heather? I get emails from you. Heather, are you there?
Let's go.
Heather?
Let's go to the next.
The next one is Becky Bowler. Becky, just unmute yourself.
While she's doing
Hi,
that, yep, go ahead.
I'm here now. Sorry about that. So thank you all very much, and really appreciate you taking time to incorporate so many of the suggestions that we made at the meeting in February. I know you said we're conflating design and operations, but I do want to echo like concerns related to noise in the park. So I live at 77 Bleecker Street, directly overlooking the park. I'm used to noise in the city, and I'm completely fine with having people riding bikes and skateboarding and such, but I do think we are not going to be able to depend on signage or enforcement. So really important that the design be created in such a way that it's appealing and draws in, you know, like preteens, for example, to skate and bike, but where we don't end up in a situation where it's extremely loud and we're having older skateboarders and people, you know, in their at night and such, I think it's really important that we depend on the design to lend itself to something that everyone in the community can feel good with.
Okay.
I'm concerned that if we depend on signage and enforcement, we're going to have a lot of angry residents, because in the 25 years I've owned my apartment, I've seen very little enforcement in that playground.
Yeah, so we're sort of at a difficult spot here. We asked for some changes to the design that would make it more appealing to the preteens who are learning to ride their bikes and to scooter and skateboard and that sort of thing. And that's been delivered, and yet there's some questions as to how it will be limited so that it's not loud and it's not taken over by older kids. You know, and there is a fear that signs and hours and things like that won't be limited. So I ask you, what ideas can we suggest to the team in an attempt to balance the concerns with the objectives they've delivered on? You can put it in the chat. You know, we can offer them up in the chat as well if people would like to do that.
And we have Susan Burkhart.
Yes, thanks. This is Susan Burkhart. I'm also a resident of 77 Bleecker. I also face the park. I'm looking at it right now, and I'm extremely concerned about making this attractive to skateboarders. And I think that the design needs to discourage use by, you know, older kids and skateboarders. This is going to be a huge quality of life issue for everyone who faces this, as well as the people in Washington Square Village whose windows face. I just think skateboard parks are put in areas on, you know, not near residential spaces for a very specific reason, and they do not belong in the midst of something that's so residential as this block. I mean, we've all been discussing this evening how troubling we find the skateboarders in Washington Square Park. I think if we design this in a way that it's attractive to them, it will only make the problem worse. It will not make people not go to Washington Square Park. It will make them come here as well.
Okay. So now let me just recap. We've got concerns about skateboarders, and we've got concerns about pot smokers, and we've got concerns about people doing bad things in parks. So again, I'm open to ideas on how to modify the design, or what design you would like to propose that would address those use cases that are, you know, concerning.
Mm-hmm. We have two more questions from Ingrid Wiegand, and then Simon Green wants to speak again. I was going to put in Ingrid. Ingrid, you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I have been living in this. I'm in Soho, and I've brought up two kids. I've been there for decades, and I have to say that I have never seen more than 3 or 4 people, other than people sleeping, in this park. And it's always seemed to me such a shame that you know, it wasn't more used, because it's really a fairly large space. And I really begin to understand, if you want a playground, it's not just late teens with skateboards that make noise. I at one point in my life lived next to a playground for very young children, and the noise was incredible. But I celebrated the noise because I heard children having a good time. Children, you can't have a playground without noise. You don't have enforcement. You can't. It's like you're wanting one thing and saying you want another. This is not possible. And I really think that everybody has to take stop and think about it. If you're going to have a playground and you're going to have it populated, which I have never seen this park, this is so desolate, then you must accept that you have children and you have noise, and you have to have a warm heart toward that. And also I saw Janine's chat post that this is only for NYU people. Is this true?
No. I meant that the other space, the backyard, is for NYU.
Oh, right. Okay.
This is a New York City. Well, depending on who you're talking to, this is a New York City park. So,
okay. So the other thing,
That is correct. Yeah.
I'm looking at this park, and you're talking about teens using it. Teens wouldn't be caught dead in this park.
I think you're right. You're totally right.
This is pathetic. 18-inch mounds that they won't fall down on.
Not challenging.
I can't imagine when I was 5 that I would want to and confine my bike to something that's not interesting. I think this whole thing, you either have to go for very young children who will go on their little tricycles and whatnot, and will have fun in these barely bumps, or you have to make it much more interesting and deal with preteens and teens. And then you can worry about if they're making noise. But these are all considerations. Who is it for? Also, if you're having small children, why are you so scarce with seating? The parents stay, and there are no little tables where you can put food. You really need to think about accommodating the people who are using this park, and be generous and make room for them. That's it.
Okay, thank you. You want to go to George Barber? And I just want to say, if you would like to raise your hand, click on the participants, and then go next to your name and click on the blue box that says raise hand. Okay, George. Let's see, George, you should be in there. Can you? Yes, there you are. Picture and everything.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, hi everybody. Thank you all for your efforts. It's a big conundrum. I would like to know, first of all, what is coping?
This medium doesn't work. What are you asking a question about the design?
I'm asking a question about coping. What is it? I have no idea.
Okay.
Was it presented on a slide?
No, it was mentioned several times.
Ricardo mentioned it.
You did.
It's something to do with the parameters of the
Maybe it was scoping, SCOPING.
Oh, maybe.
So scoping is, yeah. So that's
it's
probably
what goes around the mounds, right?
Oh, sculpting. He said sculpting. Yes, SCULP. Sculpting. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, yes. I think it's interesting because you're asking people to be constructive about other things, but the point is that you've brought up a lot of stuff here that's causing people to go. What's going on with the noise? And two very weak points are the signage and what do you call it? The people who are supposed to be running the place, enforcement.
Yeah.
it's not going to happen. It hasn't been there since I lived at 77 Bleecker Street. And I'll tell you something else, you know, every night in the summertime, we have at least 24 people smoking pot and screaming their heads off and playing music right across the street from where I live. So, you know, and I'm very concerned about Washington Square people being encouraged to come over here. I think they'll push those kids out of the way. And I want to know, it's like, this feels to me like it's more like an obstacle course than, you know, a playground. And is it a park or is it a playground? Because I always thought it was a park. You know, I would go over there and sit and make my phone calls and stuff. But is it, what are we talking? Is it like a playground? Is it Mercer Street Playground?
Yeah.
That's
what it's called. Yeah.
Okay. I have another question about the fence on the Mercer Street side. It says lower fence to 4 feet. Aren't people going to be able to jump over that fence? That's not a high fence. That's like anybody could easily jump over that. Is that going to be secure? You know, does that mean that we're going to have all these people, you know, in the park late at night? Because I live on Mercer Street as well, and I'm very concerned about the noise.
Yeah, I have the noise at night.
It feels like there's a lot about skateboarding, and I'm sorry, but you know, we've got a skateboarding park down on Houston Street and 6th Avenue. We've got Washington Square. You know, it just feels like it's really going to be a challenge.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Just Janine and Rich. I know Steve Simon's on the call, but he potentially was under Heather's name. Potentially. I don't know, because he used a different link. So I don't know.
Steve, can you raise your hand? Oh, you're not, Steve?
Janine, did you know that and purposely weren't calling on Steve?
No, I called.
He just sent an email, so I don't know. I think
I
think he should still be on.
I called on Heather, and then she sent me a message that she didn't raise her hand.
Yeah, so there might be 2 Heathers on there.
So let me see. There are
for those who are unaware,
there are actually 4 Heathers.
Yeah.
So that would like to talk, if you could go next to your name and raise your hand.
For those who are unaware, Steve Simon is the Department of Parks and Recreation Manhattan Chief of Staff. So.
Oops. Do not want to do that.
Hopefully he's still on. But
Steve, are you there? I've promoted you. Steve, are you there? You can you need to unmute yourself.
And also Ricardo's stuck on mute.
Okay.
Just FYI.
Ricardo, what's your phone number?
646-369-5374.
Okay. Ricardo, you should be allowed to talk.
Oh, hi. Thank you.
Okay. Now explain why you're not answering the question. Sorry about that.
Trying to manage over text.
Okay. Steve, I've asked to unmute you. Are you there? Can you hear us, Steve?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Right. Yes.
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 Oh, okay. All right. I thought I was being discriminated against. But okay, I don't. But I didn't realize I was masquerading as a Heather. I just wanted to say that I'm. I just want to acknowledge that I think we understand that skateboarding to a certain extent is that there's a certain amount of risk involved in opening this up for potential skateboarding, and that I think we recognize that we need to limit it to the extent that we can. And so when Suzanne suggested earlier that we maybe keep it open later for adults, that's really when I wanted to butt in and say that I don't think that's feasible. That's I think the last thing we need to do. So I do want to hear more from what the community wants us to do there, but I do want to acknowledge that that there is a certain amount of I think we do understand that there is some risk involved in opening up for skateboarding. But we were we were, as you acknowledged, responding to what the committee had asked us to do back in February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a neighborhood, just tell me if this is not, everyone can say this is not pertinent, but this is a neighborhood who for the next 10 or more years is going to have a lot of noise during the day. And I imagine that when construction activities are, stopped at the end of the day, there would be a benefit to having a somewhat quieter time. Period.
Can I respond to the concerns about older kids coming in?
Yes, please.
Especially teenagers and young adults. I think that one of the reasons we kept it sort of a light challenge, not a major, not an older kid challenge. I mean, older kids in their later teens. I think the woman who said that this is not going to be of interest to them. There's not much challenge for older kids, meaning kids 15 and over, or even 13 and over, is true. I think that it's a fairly mild, moderate loop with some figure eights and a very low mound. It's not intended to be of interest to older kids or especially young adults. I don't think there will need to be signage to keep them out. I just don't think there's there's too many other more fun challenges elsewhere for them to waste their time here, which was designed to be for kids, for younger kids, for kids 10 to maybe even 8 to 12 or 13. I don't think it's going to be of interest to anybody older than that.
Okay.
And then also with regard to the tables, I think that would be a nice addition. I think that could be something that in the future we would look at. We don't have the budget for that now, but I could see some of the alcoves along Mercer Street are deep enough so that we could put maybe either game table or picnic table, a small picnic table. Maybe one or two, not more than that. And then especially along where the younger kid play is, especially there for the spray showers. But I can see that being something we could accommodate in the future, not during this phase, because I don't think that's budgeted. And then also with regard to the colors, maybe the idea of making it slightly more primary color to reflect the colors of the balconies along the Washington Square Village facade might actually make it read as a younger space as well.
Okay. I'm looking at the chat. Let me go back. Were any more people I'd like to, we have a couple other more topics. So if we can move through these, please.
Yeah, we have Susan Burkhart and you've already spoken. So we have Simon Green, who also spoke, and Samir Lavinia and Stephen Rodriguez. Susan, I'm going to get the people who haven't spoken yet go first. So Samir, I'm going to unmute you. Are you there, Samir?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you for hosting this meeting. Yeah, I think a few people have already mentioned this, but like the park or the playground isn't very well used right now. And honestly, any improvement that you can make is going to be a huge improvement. I'm a little concerned that if we nitpick every single small detail, this is never going to happen. And like, we're just going to literally have the same thing there for the next like 30 years. So I would encourage, I would encourage people to be a little bit less nitpicky and just try and focus on the things that they can improve. And if it needs to be done, like, they'll get it done. Because like right now, it's just like not an attractive place to be. And I think we should go through these plans and make it a more attractive place to be. Also, skateboarders are cool. They do kick flips. Thanks. It's awesome.
Okay, thank you. And then Steve Rodriguez, and then we'll go to the people who've already spoken.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hey, this is Steve Rodriguez. I'm a resident of 77 Bleecker Street. I have a 9-year-old son who skateboards, and the whole reason I was very excited about this project is you're not allowed to skateboard in Washington Square Park. They could skateboard there for probably like 10 minutes, then they get kicked out, told to move on to someplace else. There's no place in our area. Someone had mentioned 6th Avenue in Houston, which is Pastanante.
Right.
that is a park that is always permitted with hockey and kickball and all that kind of stuff. So my son can't go there. He'll like come home and say, I can't skate there. So there's really no place for him to skate. And this is a place that's literally across the street from us. And I myself, I'm a lifelong skateboarder, and these features are very mellow. So yes, I will admit that in the beginning, a lot of people will go there because it's something new. But I think, you know, 18-inch or 12-inch mounds are quickly mastered and people move on. So again, I don't know. And if you want to completely have a skateboard area that is, you know, that you're able to lock it down, you know, you could make it so that it's a smaller area for skateboarding and have something like a mini ramp that is closed at night by simply putting a chain across the bottom of it, which a parks employee could do.
Okay.
You know what I mean? There's ways to stop activity on skateboarding obstacles if they're designed properly.
Okay. Thank
you.
Susan Burkhart. You've already gone. So
Sure.
just
Yeah. No, I would just say that to the folks who say that the park is not well used, I literally live across the street from it. I'm looking at it right now. It is empty right now, but on any sunny day, there are lots of parents out there teaching their kids to ride their bikes. So this is not a desolate, deserted park. And I don't think the folks who live around it have a problem with fun child noise. I think it is the noise of, you know, rolling wheels and clanging against metal that is the objection. I think, you know, when I have my windows open in the summer, I hear the kids playing. I have no problem with that. Regular playground noise, I think, is fine. I think it is the skateboard noise that I think is probably our concern. And I mean, I recognize that other people have, you know, different views on skateboarding in the neighborhood, but I just think it's a very bad idea.
Okay.
thank you. And Simon Green.
Sorry, I was literally just in the process of lowering my hand because my concerns were raised. So thank you.
Okay. Anyone else still there? We will discuss this in the business portion. We can discuss what to put in a resolution in the business portion.
Okay. Oh, wait, Barbara Becker.
Okay.
Barbara, are you there? Do you have one last comment? Oh, and then we have Joe McGee. Barbara?
I'm not seeing. Oh, I see Joe now.
Backer, Barbara Becker. Barbara, are you there? We're going to go to Joe McGee, and if you're Barbara, you're there, we'll come back to you. Joe, you need to unmute yourself. Thank you.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
We can.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, sorry to jump in late, but I've been at the February meeting, this meeting, and one before. And I'm a little, so the design I like, I understand the concerns about skateboarding, but I like the design. But one of the things that's kind of bothered me maybe across the meetings has been the expressed concern about safety, which seems like sort of veiled concerns about homelessness, which seems like we need a solution for rather than just pushing people around the city. So I just want to at least be on the record of saying that it's strange to me to compartmentalize a design of a park where people have concerns about people sleeping because they don't have homes and not integrate that with a solution to address homelessness. That's it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And Barbara, are you there? Okay. I don't see any other questions. Thank you.
Okay, well, I appreciate everyone's weighing in. Ricardo and Steve, is there something in the resolution? Obviously, I think we have some, we have some challenges in writing a resolution here that captures the thoughts of the community or that captures I mean, it's easy to capture the thoughts of the community, but to come up with something that we suggest, that's a suggestion for how best to move forward, but let the committee work on it. Is there, and propose some ideas. We can discuss them in towards the end of the meeting. I appreciate everyone for listening. Ricardo, I sure do appreciate it. And everyone did. Many people expressed thanks for the effort that you put in, to get us here. It was dramatic. You did answer the questions we had raised. And so thank you for doing that in the February meeting. There is a related point. I hope everyone stays. It's somewhat related. It sounds to me like it's related. It was a request. And Arlene, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, the second topic on our agenda is it's on Bleecker Street, but it's very close to Mercer. Can I turn it over to you for discussion?
Sure. If Janine or Rich, can you guys make the following people panelists, because they are also presenting, and
yep.
That will be Rachel Belsky.
Okay.
Are any of you signed in as Heather? There's several Heathers.
Oh, there might be.
Make
they
all
should
the
raise their
Heathers,
hands.
Yeah.
And I know Ricardo's going to stay on.
Raise your hand if your name is called by Arlene.
I think that I made all the Heathers in. I'm sure that
was it. This Heather has to move on to another meeting.
Bye, Steve.
Thanks for joining us, Steve.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Take care.
As you speak, I can change your name if I know how to spell it.
So I don't know if there's a Paul. I don't know if Paul's on one of the Heathers, but there should be a Paul Seck.
Got him. Yep. He's in.
Oliver. Yep. Oliver, I'm gonna butcher. I'm sorry, your last name. Gillespie. Yep. Nooney. Kim.
Yep.
William Paxson. It's a big team. It's easier when we're physically together. Tony, Tony with an S, Siervading. Tony, I'm sorry, I'm butchering your last name too. And then Jackie, CACAN.
Yep. Got it.
Not everyone's presenting, but just in case we have other questions. So yes, I can.
Arlene, hi, it's Rachel. Just also Nick Patinotti, if he
yes, thank you.
Is available.
Yes, thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, this is Nick from DOT.
Hi, Nick.
Yeah, Nick's in. Nick's in. Okay.
So Oliver's gonna pull up the presentation. He needs screen sharing enabling feature because he's the one who's gonna be sharing the screen for the PowerPoint.
Yeah. Okay.
Please.
See if
great.
that'll
And
work.
while he does that, I'll just start. Is that okay,
Yes.
Rich? Okay, great.
Please do. Yeah.
So
Oliver's sharing. Yep.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Arlene Peralta Avila. I am the Senior Director of Community Engagement at NYU. I know many of you here. Today, I'm joined by my colleagues, Rachel Belsky, who actually was formerly at NYU and now with Langen, and she's consulting on this project with us. In addition, I have Paul Seck. He's the partner from Michael Van Valkenburg, who is our landscape architect. So they will be the presenters tonight. I know I had other people join in just in case we get additional questions. So today we're here to present to you a proposal by NYU in partnership with the Department of Parks and the Department of Transportation to improve a small sidewalk area along Bleecker Street. So to orient you, it's on the southwest corner of Bleecker and Mercer, adjacent to the north entry of 181 Mercer Street's public atrium. And really, this is a continuation of the Bleecker Street Landscape. We came to the community board back in 2015, I believe, to present with Parks and DOT on the Bleecker Street Landscape that's in between LaGuardia and Mercer Street along Bleecker. So it's just continuing that aesthetic. And I will turn it over to my colleague, Rachel, who's gonna really walk you through the goals outlined with DOT and Parks and a little bit about the project area just to familiarize ourselves with that.
Great. So thank you, Arlene, and hello, everybody. I'm really pleased to help present the Bleecker Street Entry project to you tonight. Just as Arlene said, and as a reminder, it is a city-owned space. It's in DOT's portfolio, but it is a Parks green street. And the space was designed under the guidance of City DOT and Parks. We have with us tonight Nick Patinotti, who's Deputy Director of Urban Design in the Urban Design Art and Wayfinding Department at DOT, and also Ricardo Henkel, Deputy Director of Landscape Architecture and the Manhattan team at Parks. we all got together and right from the outset identified goals, design goals for this space. And they are to integrate the Bleecker Street entry with the landscape, the Bleecker Street landscape, just to the west, by creating the continuum of the tree canopy, the double sidewalk, and strategically placed planting beds. We also sought to enrich the surrounding urban fabric, this idea of knitting together the public and private space. And you'll see that the finishes and furnishings that are used in the design of this space really typify public open space in New York City. But I'd say beyond, above all else, we all sought to create a welcoming landscape for the surrounding neighborhood. Next, please. The black rectangle at the center of the circles, that is the location of this Bleecker Street entry. And then the reference to the Bleecker landscape to the west, you can see how this open space is connected to the other open space in the surrounding area. It really does continue a pattern of small green spaces in the community. And when complete, the Bleecker entry will add to that. Next, please. So you see a closer view of the project area on the right part of the screen. And you see that it really does have a prominent location on the corner of Mercer and Bleecker Streets, and that it is a continuum of city spaces around the superblocks. Just to the north, we have the Mercer Playground that we just heard about a few minutes ago. And then moving west along LaGuardia Place is the Fiorello LaGuardia Park. And then just south is the community garden, the Time landscape, and moving back towards the project area, we have the Bleecker landscape. So this space will connect a lot of the open spaces around the periphery of the superblocks. Next, please. So, and then here is the Bleecker landscape. It was completed in 2015. If you may remember the tall chain link fences and wrought iron fences that were here. And so with just a few modest design interventions, we really were able to enhance the experience of this street, lowering the fences, opening the views, widening the interior sidewalk for better circulation, and overall a sort of a better look and feel, more open. The planting beds were refurbished, and this is what we seek to continue at the North Entry area, as you will see. Next, please. So on the left is a pre-construction view of the Bleecker Entry area just across Mercer Street. It was formerly a row of trees inside a wrought iron fence. And then now a current view is the site is under construction. And then to the next, you see beginning to see what it will look like when complete and how it will connect to the Bleecker landscape to the west. So Paul Seck will now walk you through the schematic design.
Hello. Thanks for having us here tonight. I just wanted to go over a couple of points from the design, but first and foremost, the design that we did here was in close collaboration with New York City DOT and Parks Department. The major idea here is to pull the Bleecker Street landscape and the plant beds that are located just to the west of this site and pull that same feeling to create some continuity. The plant beds that we have here and we're showing are located away from the Con Edison vault to provide a clear entry to the 181 Mercer public atrium. The plant bed form is similar, as I mentioned, to the shape along Bleecker Street landscape. And you can see the blue cone on the corner is a clearance for visual and physical access for keeping trees out of that area per DOT and Parks Department. So we've pulled that area back just to show you this is really just to show you some of the restrictions that are here. And we've also made a space for ADA accessible companion seating at each of the plant beds. Next, please. So this is a cross section in the same area. The top image is an older depiction of when Coles was still there, and that cross section, and the lower image shows you with 181 Mercer in the position in construction that it's under now and in its final condition. Like the pre-construction condition, the proposed design provides circulation, trees, ground covers, and a streetscape. However, the proposed design will extend the parallel sidewalks on either side of the planted median with shade trees in the center, like the Bleecker landscape. So the above image, you're seeing one sidewalk, which is the way it was when Coles was there, and then below we're showing that there's more porosity and providing access not only along the curb line, but also further in. Next, please. This is a view shows Bleecker Street entry looking southeast across Bleecker Street toward the entrance of the public atrium of 181 Mercer. There we show our proposed trees are swamp white oak trees, and they have a similar form and character to the existing green ash tree that is on Bleecker Street. But because of the emerald ash borer and the declining condition of the ash tree, we're looking for something similar, but we need to find a more hardy species. Next, please. Thank you. This view shows Bleecker Street entry looking west down Bleecker Street from the corner of Bleecker and Mercer. The proposed design supports the diverse landscape character of the existing street by continuing a wider than standard depth double sidewalk and a row of planting, including shade trees in the center. And those are the swamp white oaks you can see there. Next, please. DOT standard concrete sidewalks throughout to match existing streetscape to the west will be proposed. There are 4, as I mentioned.
Did we lose you there?
Paul, you maybe muted yourself accidentally.
Yep, there you go. Yeah.
I'm not sure what happened. It kicked me out and I'm back, but here we are. 4 city standard.
You probably did it.
Can you hear me now still?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, we can hear you. And my apologies if I screwed something up.
No, that's all right. Not unusual with this platform. Anyway, the DOT standard concrete sidewalks throughout to match existing streetscape is what we're going to be using. There's 4 city standard park benches that are the same benches at LaGuardia Place at the end of the block to the west. The plant fence matches the same plant rail fence used in the Bleecker Street landscape to the west, and there's 1 garbage can trash receptacle that will be on the corner of Bleecker and Mercer Street. Next, please. As I mentioned before, the 4 swamp white oaks will be 2 in each planter, about 18 feet apart from each other. They will be planted at a 4-inch caliper, which is roughly 12-foot wide canopy diameter. And the canopies will be limbed up to match the character of the Bleecker Street landscape as they grow and reach around 25 feet in diameter, so that we can continue that look and feel down Bleecker. The trees will be encircled at the base, planting with similar planting in the Bleecker Street landscape, but with some additional planting that you can see above there to provide a little bit more seasonal variety. There are, addition to the existing street lights there are 3 Parks Department standard type B light poles that will be added near the plant beds. Are the 3 you can see there in the middle. The one on the left where it says existing street light, which is just above the Con Ed vault, and the other 3 new LED light posts we're showing in that area. These light poles will match lighting used at LaGuardia Place and be standard light levels of city sidewalks and streets. Bleecker Street entry will, just to recap, the Bleecker Street entry will enhance wider than average public space between Mercer Street and LaGuardia Place, while extending the landscape character. And Bleecker Street entry will fit in with typical New York City streetscapes while offering a rich multi-seasonal landscape and pedestrian experience for the surrounding communities to enjoy. And that's the last slide. So thank you very much.
Arlene, can we open it up to questions?
Yep, we can open it up
Comments?
to questions. Yes.
Okay, if anyone wants to, any committee members that would like to ask a question.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead. Yeah,
What
go.
is the what's the timing realistically? What's the latest timing on closing in the building and doing the landscape?
I believe, don't quote me, and I should have written this down, and Heather might be on, I believe it's, so spring of, I believe that this space would probably be done in spring 2022, but it wouldn't be officially open until we open the building in fall of 2022. I think that's that's anticipated, but I can get you guys the actual, but I have a feeling that it probably won't be till fall 2022.
Okay, thank you. Georgia?
Yes, just a comment. I really miss the cherry trees, those Kwanzaa cherries. I know they're not coming back. I think this swamp white oaks are an excellent choice. It's a really beautiful, urban, tolerant tree. And I'm also really excited about the underplantings in terms of the variety of species. And I guess I do have a question. I'm curious, further west in the Bleecker landscape, underplanted beneath the ashes are service berries. And I'm curious if it's possible to insert any service berries on this end of Bleecker. Thank you.
Okay.
Paul or Ricardo, I know you're on either or. I'm not entirely sure who could answer that.
I'm happy to take a first stab at it. Maybe
Sure.
Ricardo could add on to it. I love service berries. I have in my garden in Brooklyn. It's the major tree shrub in my garden, and I would put them anywhere I can. Here, though, we're really trying to keep a high canopy and lower ground cover understory for views, staying open, for getting the right proper amount of maintenance, being able to maintain it right. So that was really the decision, although I do appreciate your love of service berries. I have the same.
Can you tell us what's on the young man's t-shirt there? Is that a subliminal message?
I have no idea, actually.
All right. I'm sorry to share. Who else do we have?
No more committee members. We have.
Can I, just before we call on Sharon, I hate to even bring this up, but in a post or in a current COVID world, has anyone thought about the idea of turning wider sidewalks into narrow sidewalks? And, we're talking about opening up streets so that people don't have to cross each other on tight sidewalks. Has anyone raised that as a concern? Or do we hope there'll be a vaccine by then?
I hope that there's a vaccine by then, but
Okay.
I haven't heard that concern.
All right. All right, good.
Okay.
Sorry.
So we have Sharon.
Yeah, go.
You should be able to speak.
Hi, everybody. Two quick questions. Georgia did bring up about the cherry trees, which were very magical, extraordinary place of those 8 or so trees. And I understand the oaks being higher, but is there any possibility that the cherries could be replaced? They were taken down, as you all, I'm sure, are aware, and it was something that it was very devastating to all of us. And oaks are oaks, and they're magnificent, but cherries are quite magical. The other question I have is the city bike situation. So the city bikes used to be in front of Kohl's on the sidewalk, which was a much safer place for them to be. And I don't know if this is not part of our jurisdiction, but they were moved over and extended across the street on Bleecker, which has been quite a dangerous placement. Also, for those people who park in the area, it took away about eight park.
I think we may have lost her there. Is there anyone on the phone that can comment on the city bikes?
So this is Nick from DOT. I'm happy to follow up with that. I must say I'm not personally aware of whether that move was purely for construction purposes, given the 181 Mercer construction, or whether that it was for some other reason. But I'm happy to take that back to our bike share team and try to provide a little bit more, or to get a little bit more background and then report back to you all.
Thanks.
Can I come
Thanks.
back?
Yeah, Karen, do you have another question?
Well,
Yeah,
I did want to address, just back to Nick. I have called numerous times about the city bike, and there seems to be a lot of people not knowing, but if it could be looked into, I very much would appreciate it. So thank you for hearing me out to the end.
Absolutely. I will do my best to follow up.
Thank you.
And Paul,
did you want to take the question about the cherry trees?
Sure. It'd be interesting if Ricardo could confirm this, but I don't believe cherry trees, I could be wrong, or a parks approved tree. I love them. We use them in our landscapes designs all the time. It's just not a very resilient street tree. Also, the where they were located before, where they were set further back off the curb, they had more shelter. They, probably got less salt spray and all of these other things. So it just didn't, and the idea of the continuity of the trees as they moved down Bleecker just didn't feel like it would be the right choice. I mean, on my street, I see a couple of cherry trees, and they get, kind of hit pretty hard in urban environments. So that was the reasoning for that.
Okay, Matt, I think you're up, Matt?
Could we go to the, thank you. Could we go to the overlay, the kind of the architectural drawing? That's
the ugliest building.
Earlier slide, yeah.
Oh, and could we zoom out a little bit? Sorry.
Which one? That one or that one or the more detailed one?
Am I the only one that's zoomed in? Oh, I am.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. The other one that showed where that was more zoomed in. Sorry.
Yeah. Next slide. Right,
yeah, that one.
Perfect. So, and I'm sorry, there was one that described like the trash cans and that kind of stuff, and that's where I'm going.
Yep.
There we go.
Yeah.
So, can I encourage as many, more than one receptacle as part of this? That would be my suggestion. And is it going to be both of those, both the trash and the
recycling
combo, paper and drink?
Yes, and I didn't fully explain this. I believe this is a city standard or being used more, which is the big belly receptacle, which is sort of appropriate for this time, unfortunately for me anyway. I think that the idea is that these can contain and hold a lot more material than just your normal garbage can. They actually condense and get a little bit tighter in there. So, but just that's to explain it. The ultimate number of those receptacles could need to be, reviewed by the larger group.
And then, sorry, is it definitely both the trash and the combo recycling?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
It's just, I see it's 35 feet deep. How far in does it come off Mercer? Is that about 220 feet or something?
Oh, no, that's sorry. That dimension is actually the width of the sidewalk. So if you look to the left,
right,
you see where it says 40 feet. That's from curb to the atrium entrance. So it's about.
I see. Okay. And then how long is it? What's the other measurement? It looks to be over 200.
Yeah, I'd say approximately 200 feet because you have 8 here and then another 160 and then about 40. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
200, 220.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? And guys, can you are you looking for us to write a resolution and
Yes,
supports it
actually,
in? Yeah.
yes, Rich. Actually, after this meeting, this does have to go to the Public Design Commission
Yeah.
for their review and approval. So we would love a resolution.
Got it. That's what I thought. Yeah. Thanks for clarifying.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Well, we appreciate all of you. One, waiting through the longer topic, and then for showing us the details here.
Thank you guys
Our
for
pleasure.
having us. Our pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
it's.
you.
I think for many people, they may not have realized all the progress that's been made on connecting, on utilizing those design standards. So, around the area. So thanks for that.
Yep. Good.
Thank you for having us.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. It's
Bye
much
now.
appreciated. Okay, and let's move on to the third topic. And sorry, it's taken a long time to get here, but perhaps that was to be expected. Let me introduce Cheryl. Cheryl Woodruff is the Community Development Director for the Washington Square Park Conservancy. Try to get the Washington Square Park Conservancy has, since the beginning, has come in front of our committee and spoken to the community generally twice a year. We've been late on this one due to a variety of reasons that may come up during the presentation, which you'll hear. I think it'll make more sense. We've got, I asked Cheryl to join us. Cheryl, you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep. And really appreciate it. And I didn't give her any guidelines on what to say. This is just an update on activities, and so Cheryl,
Sure.
please take it over.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for waiting. Yeah.
Yeah, not a problem. I do have video if it's not letting me select it.
Yeah. Is it stored at a link? Here, I think when you go to present, there's an option to present a link. Hold on.
Yeah,
the
and
screen photos.
I'm not seeing the share screen yet either.
Oh, well, okay. Well, what we're seeing your the logo.
Oh, you're seeing my logo.
Yeah.
That's so strange. Yeah, it's not giving me any. Let me
All
just.
right, hold on.
Yep.
Hold on.
I have audio, but I don't have video
Okay, just a second.
functioning.
Yep,
We
just
need
one
to
second.
promote you.
I promoted her to panelist, and now let's make her
Co-host.
yes, a co-host. Yeah. So can you try? Stop it. Can you try again? Are you seeing her as a co-host?
No. I'm sorry.
I think we may have lost her. Are you still there? She may
I'm
have
here now.
dropped. Okay, good.
All
All right. Yeah.
right,
she's there.
Sorry, it kicked me off and then brought me back in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you able to share now?
Yes, I am. Great. Thank you so much.
That's great.
Community board members, for those of you who are able to, if you could show your picture, I think people would appreciate that. But obviously some people are not able to, so I'm gonna.
And actually, I'm sorry, but it does say host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, hold on one second.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, can you stall for me for a second and maybe present the question that you want to present or something? As we try to clear this up. I'm trying to kick out. I think there may be a limit on the number of hosts. Or you know what? If Oliver
You can kick out Arlene as a host because she's done.
Yeah. Okay, I'm trying. And the problem is Oliver is now the host. Shit.
Oh, well, that's why.
Yeah.
How do you become?
Oliver, are you still there?
I moved him to an attendee. So
Good,
he's
good, okay.
now. Okay.
You're the host now.
All right, good. All right, I can do it now. All right.
Okay.
All right. Well, I can start without the screen sharing, but my name is Cheryl Woodruff. I am
There you go. You're a host now. Yeah.
Thank you. I am the Community Development Director for the Washington Square Park Conservancy. As Rich says, we come here periodically just to give you an update on what we've been doing. I am here to do that tonight. I'm happy to do that tonight. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've been doing over the past year, and then just talk a little bit about what we're thinking about going forward. You know, right now a lot of things are changing, and we're just trying to keep on top of things like everyone else. So for those of you who don't know us, and is that visible to everyone pretty well? Okay, I see some head shaking. Thank you. For those of you who don't know us, we are a nonprofit organization. We are a partner with New York City Parks. Our role is to help the Parks Department in keeping the park clean, safe, and beautiful. We're actually in our 8th year now of providing support to Washington Square Park and New York City Parks Department. In recent years, we've really made it our goal to increase the grants we provide to the New York City Parks Department. We've talked about this here in the past, but we don't directly employ folks at the park. We provide a grant to the Parks Department, and we've really increased the number of staff members at the Parks Department. We've increased that grant each year, and this past year we supported 2 full-time gardeners, 2 full-time and 2 maintenance staff members, and 1 youth activities coordinator. And I just want to point out that in light of the pandemic, the economic downturn, we've really had to take a close look at our budget, and our board has really prioritized these grant allocations for the staff members. We've really found that they are successful in what we do, and we wouldn't want to see any of those staff positions disappear. So we have taken as an organization, the stance that we are going to do all that is possible to keep those folks at the park this upcoming fiscal year and beyond as well. So.
Okay.
I'm going to talk a little bit about our programs. Sorry, these are our staff. These are the folks that we support through grants to the New York City Parks Department. So I just wanted to show you those faces. Those faces mean a lot to us, and you might recognize some of them if you spend time at the park. Okay, so our landscapes program. What we have been doing this year, Dwayne, one of our gardeners, was promoted to full-time. So he was a seasonal staff member, now he is full-time. Our staff and volunteers together planted about 10,000 new perennials and about 75,000 bulbs as well. So, and all the bulbs are naturalizing, meaning they come back year after year. Our gardeners used over 1,000 pounds of rat ice. You all might know it as dry ice, as to help deal with the rat problem that is going to be an issue at any city park with upwards of 12 million users a year who are all eating, et cetera, et cetera. There are about 2 million square feet of lawns mowed. And I think this is really, and I have an image here, we were able to restore the lawn in the northwest quadrant of the park. You can see a before and after here with a $170,000 grant from Dalio Philanthropies. And our gardeners tell me that they plan to open this lawn in August. So that'll be about a year since it was completed. Our maintenance program, we actually added 2 new full-time maintenance positions last year, this last fiscal year. What we did was we took 2 folks who had been working in the position seasonally, and we promoted them to full-time, and then we brought in new candidates for those seasonal roles. We have 2 seasonal maintenance staff workers at the park as well. Every single bench in Washington Square Park was power washed last year. That's 399 approximately. And thanks to our state senator, Brad Hoylman, we were able to purchase and install new trash cans through the park. I didn't give you a before here, but I think you might have seen that a lot of them were reaching the end of their life. In our community programs, we employ a youth activities coordinator known as, her name is Debbie. She goes by Miss Debbie in the park. And she coordinated a lot of activities for kids. You can see a pumpkin painting there in the right-hand corner of the screen from this past fall. We hosted 61 fitness classes for all ages, including kids, seniors, etc. About 12,000 volunteer hours were logged in the park, and that's from 4 different volunteer programs. We had our greeter volunteers, who I know I've spoken to this group before about. They assisted 1,600 park users last season. So, and I just want to also point out another part of our community program is our community arts grants. We have been providing these for the past, since 2016. But our organization made the decision that we would go forward with these grants, even though some of the recipients might not actually be able to put on programming in the park. And these are put on by organizations that I think everyone knows and loves. This is the Music Festival, the Folk Festival, the Uni Project, Films on the Green, dances for variable populations, some really lovely, lovely public events. We were worried that these organizations were really small, that funding is pretty tight right about now, and we wanted to make sure that if at least they couldn't bring programming this season, they would be hale and hearty and could come back next. Many of them are working on some virtual programs, and some are just paying artists with the grants that we provided, which I think is a fairly lovely endeavor. So, and just to talk a little bit about going forward, as everyone, we're just kind of finding our way right now as we move from the pause to slowly opening in New York. We're trying to strike a balance between what programs are really most needed at the park and, you know, what is needed just for, you know, mental health for people and how we can do it safely. We just received permission this week to restart volunteer programs in smaller groups. So we're going to welcome back our gardening volunteers and our photography volunteers. Unfortunately, our greeters, it's not really a great program in the social distance world. So we're gonna try some of that virtually. And our monthly volunteers, which is kind of like a drop-in program, we're gonna have to wait for those as well, just because of keeping people socially distanced will be difficult with that program. We've started to move some things virtual. So we've been putting on lectures every other Thursday, just about park topics. Our fitness events are starting next week virtually before we move them and we're able to move them back into the park. And we're really starting to think about how our kids' programs might look in this new world. So less kids, more often, you know, with making sure materials are sanitized in between. And I think, like I said, we're working with the community arts grants to try and help them get their programming online for anyone who is interested in doing that. We were also approached by the city and by Village Alliance to see if we could work with them to open some streets surrounding the park. And we actually started that program 2 weekends ago. On Sundays, Washington Square East and Washington Square West were opened up. Unfortunately, the unrest over the last week made this weekend's opening not possible. We're just going to play it by ear for this weekend to see how things go. But the city has asked us to pull back a little bit, and you know we're gonna do as they request. So finally, I'd just like to make an announcement. Our executive director, George Vilanikis, who serves as both our executive director and the park administrator, is actually retiring from New York City Parks, and consequently his role as the Conservancy executive director. he went on leave in January. His retirement will be official beginning in the fall. And I do know that the Parks Department plans to hire a deputy in sometime in the next few months, a deputy administrator. I would just in this public forum just like to take a moment to express my gratitude and the Conservancy's gratitude for the work that he has done in his time with us. He started in 2017. Those major accomplishments that I listed above, particularly the lawn project and garbage can and expanding the staff, you know, were done under his leadership, and we could not have done it without him. So we're grateful for his service, and we hope he is, we hope he gets to enjoy and relax and kick back after a lot of years. I think it's more than 30 of in service to New York City Parks. So my thanks. And that's all I have for you.
Okay, just before we go into the questions, can you, Cheryl, can you just walk through the timing on George before we move on?
Sure.
George, because he was, correct me if I'm wrong, he was retiring, but he had, yeah, I don't want to state it incorrectly. Could you just repeat that again for me?
Sure. So yes, so he went on leave beginning in January, and his official retirement will take place in the fall. It's sometime in October. I'm not exactly sure of the date. You'd have to talk to New York City Parks personnel, you know, department to see why that is. It's just part of like the benefits package and all of that. So, and how their employment works. So I can't really speak to that end of it, but that's the timeline.
Okay. And who's, is there somebody, are you aware of who's covering now that he's on leave?
Jamal Patterson is our district manager, and he has been filling in at the park during this time.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you, Cheryl, as always. And there's any questions or comments, please raise your hand and Janine will help me. Not seeing anything yet. Maybe people are tired. Oh, there we go.
All right, Georgia.
Hi. So I last year raised concerns with George in his role as New York City Parks Administrator of Washington Square Park about the lawn restoration project in the Northwest. My specific concern was the change in the grade of the soil and the potential negative impacts on the mature trees in that part of the park. So this is not actually a question to the Conservancy since the trees are under the purview of the Parks Department, but George isn't here for me to direct this question to him. The 35-inch American linden in the Northwest lawn is dead. That is a species that is known to be intolerant to changes in soil grade, especially within the critical root zone of the tree. And this project, I'm not sure who made the approvals, but several people raised concerns about changing the grade to complete a lawn restoration project in that area, given the age and size of those trees. And so I just wanted to go on record as part of this Community Board 2 meeting. Thank you.
Well, as you said, Georgia, the trees are the purview of the Parks Department. Actually, all of Washington Square Park is the purview of the Parks Department. But, you know, I do know that forestry, Parks Forestry was part of the planning for that process. The contractor used was a Parks approved contractor. So I'll just add that to the record.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else? Any questions to specifically the Conservancy? and any or anything that Cheryl can help us with. No, okay. Oh, Susanna, yes, Susanna Aaron.
Hi, sorry, I have one quick question, which is, what is the size of your grant to the park?
Yes, so, oh, you know, I didn't pull the exact grant to the park. What I can tell you is in our last fiscal year, our program services, that's the money that went directly to our landscapes, maintenance and community programs that I just talked about now was $525,000. I can get you what was the grant to the park separately.
Is there a distinction between those two things?
Yes, actually, so when, for instance, if we are purchasing rat ice, say, or flowers, then we will buy directly at the request of, like, say, the gardeners or the maintenance staff. So that, you know, goes on, you know, our budget and is not counted to what we send to the Parks Department at quarterly. And I do have that record. We're required to report that as part of our 990 each year.
So staffing come out of the grant, or the staffing comes out of your budget?
The staffing comes out of the grant we give to parks.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just so you know, this current fiscal year, which will end in June, we expect those program expenses, again, that's the staffing, that's, you know, and that's also, you know, all those other programs that we provide, flowers, you know, et cetera, supplies, will be about 600,000.
Congratulations, that's great.
Yeah. Cheryl, do you know the going rate for rat ice? I'm just curious.
More than you might think. Unfortunately, the state decided to regulate dry ice as a applied, and the rate went up considerably.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it was. I remember George saying it was really hard to get to. You had to drive out to Queens, and there was some sort of dark alley.
Our gardeners have to be certified. You have to have the certification to purchase it and to pick it up. You know, it is carbon dioxide basically. So the dry ice will go in the burrow holes. The burrows, the many different entrances and exits will be covered up, and the rats go to sleep because there's no more oxygen in the burrows. They repeat the process, and they start usually around the entrances, and then they start working their way in. It's you know, it's fascinating, and it's you know, crazy all at the same time. But we've seen, as long as we're able to keep up the treatments, we've seen a good reduction in the rats. Unfortunately, last season, the gardeners got really busy in the spring and the summer, and they stepped off, and you could really see back in September the population starting to come back again. So far, we haven't reduced the amount of time we're spending on it, and that is the goal through this season, is to just keep that up so that we don't have to, you know, cycle back again and try.
And, I think the completion of the water tunnel site was a benefit as well. That
definitely
dislodged a lot of them and gave them places to live.
Yes.
We have some more hands. Can you? Who's Art?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Art Kupferman, would you like to ask a question?
Okay. You should be allowed to talk. Art?
This is directly related to Conservancy, but do you have any information on whether there'll be art vending allowed in the social distancing world?
So, hi Art, how are you? I hope you're well. I asked back in beginning of April if there were any changes to the freedom of expression vending rules to the Parks Department. I actually have not heard an answer back. So I don't know. I will prompt them again to see if there are any expected changes to that. I know there have been some musicians playing and the like. It's a little bit easier than for, say, if you're doing art matters where you might be exchanging and touching things. So
yeah, Art, can you just inform everyone of the where we are and how we got there based on restrictions that were put in, I think it would be valuable for everyone.
Are you asking me?
Yeah, just to give some context to the question.
Yeah, the Parks Department set up some rules allowing First Amendment vendors to sell in the parks, and there's this whole series of rules of how far we have to be from parks furniture, how big of a table we're required to have a table, how big of a table, how tall it can be. So, and the parks police have been enforcing those fairly consistently, and I think it's working out okay.
Okay.
And that's where we are.
I wondered if had anything changed due to social distancing rules.
I haven't been in the park since.
And again, I asked for guidance from the Parks Department about it, and I hadn't heard, in the freedom of expression rules, there is a clause that says in times of, emergency, etc., they can say no vending or no freedom of expression vending, but I hadn't heard back whether they actually were using that, invoking that.
Has anybody been vending in there? Have there been vendors?
There have been musicians. I haven't seen vendors per se. I haven't seen art. I've seen music. I know music and art. I'm just trying to.
Yeah. Now that you mention it, nor have I. That's a good point. I don't know. That's a good point. I haven't seen any tables set up. Maybe I've just missed it. Anyone else? Georgia, do you have another question?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a comment and a related question, but I will say I have seen the tarot guy in the park recently.
Oh, okay.
So my comment is, please pass on to Guy and his colleagues. They're doing really excellent plant work, and much appreciated the fences that have gone around the underplantings to minimize foot and dog traffic in those sensitive areas. And the related question is, since the Northwest Lawn will open in August, or is anticipated to open in August, are there plans to close any other lawns, and how will that impact people's ability to social distance in the park if lawns, like how is parks balancing the needs of social distancing and lawn closure?
Yes.
Thank you.
Georgia, I will pass along your kudos to the gardening team. They will love to hear it. They have been working really hard. The answer is right now, Georgia, usually if it was usual business, they would, when they open one lawn, they usually close another. So, some parks will do closing the lawns, like every other week or something like that. We do seasons. We, as a park, and at least as a conservancy, I guess I can't speak for Parks Department, but as a conservancy, we value people over the landscape. I mean, everything lends to your enjoyment of being in a park, but we try and make it so that the people get to use the park. And so it's going to be a question of what happens. So as more and more folks come out, it's going to be a judgment call about whether it makes more sense to open more lawns so that people can social distance, or whether it makes more sense to try and preserve the lawns. It does take more work to renovate a lawn that has really gotten beaten down. So our goal is to try and to switch so that we never get to the point of the Northwest Lawn. That's our goal going forward. We'd rather kind of do the maintenance regularly than do one big project. People need to get out, and people need open space, and it's been very important through the pandemic. And so that just might take precedence. I can't give you an answer at the moment, but it is on our minds. So it's on my mind, but it's also on the gardener's mind. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Rich, you're muted.
Sorry, I took us out. There was one question in chat. Yeah, there was a question about whether people are wearing masks. Is that the one? Look, I can't ask Cheryl about the whether the parks police are going to enforce much about the bikers or skateboarders or masks. Cheryl, unless you want to opine on that, I know that's not really your thing. I've tried to get Steve Simon to give us a definitive statement on what the PEP officers and the police will be doing around masks and social distancing, as well as the bikes and the skateboarders. They are not giving me a definitive direction.
Me neither. Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
You know, in a perfect world, if the pandemic hadn't come down, we would be trying to program the places that are getting used by the skateboarders in particular. So to put, you know, a big old fitness class in the middle of Garibaldi Plaza in the evenings when they like to be there. You know, that's how we approach usage issues at the park. You know, we don't want to program it because people like the, you know, the spontaneity of it, but people do not like the skateboarding. And so we feel like that's a good trade-off there. I do know that the commissioner noted that there will be some seasonal staff who are coming online soon who will be tasked with managing social distancing. They're not park enforcement patrol staff. They cannot issue summons, but they're meant to be a friendly face and a friendly reminder. And they're also there, they'll be distributing masks. That's what I know.
Okay. Does anyone have an idea of when the dog runs will open? Yeah, they close those due to the pandemic, right?
Yes.
I don't know. Have you heard anything about that, Cheryl?
Yes. So the commissioner has noted that the dog runs and the playgrounds will open sometime this summer. So that's all I know so far. You know, permits, there are no permits through the park. So any permanent event, which is usually 20 people or more, are suspended through June 30th. So since mid-March, they also have not been accepting permits. You know, all those things that are gonna start popping up again. You know, I think there's gonna be smaller group activities happening. And I think that June 30th date is looking like a potential time for, you know, thinking about the playgrounds but, you know, they're just following the mayor's direction too, and the state's direction too about, you know, where we are in the phased reopening. So I can add that the water fountains are being turned on. You know, it takes about 6 weeks, the whole process, and they just started last week. So I'm not sure where we are at Washington Square Park in the queue when the plumbers will visit, but there should be water fountains soon.
Okay. I think we had the next up was actually Victoria. I think we had somebody who seems to have disappeared. Victoria Harmer. Victoria, if you're there, please speak. But I think she's left. Catherine Swan, would you like to speak next, please?
Here tonight, in just a couple of minutes, we are going to be speaking live with Minnesota Attorney.
Hold on, let me see it. I may have to unmute Catherine. Yes. Hold on.
Someone's listening to something.
Yeah. Can you unmute there, Catherine?
That worked.
Yeah, good. Yeah, sorry. I think we were both trying to do it at the same time. Yeah,
Okay.
Go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so yeah, I had 2 questions and then I guess a comment. You mentioned this, hi Cheryl, you mentioned this, the Village Alliance reaching out to you about opening streets around the park. I'm just sort of wondering in what capacity Washington Square Park Conservancy would have authority or ability to do something like that.
So if you have been going to the traffic and transportation meetings, there is a citywide effort to temporarily open streets to allow for more social distancing at a time when there's not a lot of places for people to go. So DOT has been accepting applications. We piggybacked onto the Village Alliance's application. The DOT approves and kind of monitors the activity. We've so far had one Sunday. It ran from 8:30 to 1:30. We are, curious as to how folks received it. That's going to be talked about in, I think, tomorrow's Traffic and Transportation Committee hearing meeting. Thanks, Shirley. Yes, that is correct. So the idea was to do a small trial just to see, the response from the community. The open streets are not closed to traffic completely. They are closed where it's meant to be pedestrian forward. If someone needs deliveries or if there's a resident of the street that needs to park, they can go very slowly down the street. Again, this is a city initiative and they are asking, they asked for partners. So.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that nonprofits were involved in that. So,
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then, so I know a while back you had mentioned, and I think it got renewed a couple times, that your salary was actually paid by a grant. Is that still the case?
My salary is still paid by a foundation. Yes, sorry, this fiscal year 20, which is about to end for us, they reduced the amount of that. So my full salary is not covered at this point by that grant. That funder saw us at the beginning as, they were really giving us seed money and to try and fundraise elsewhere. And we have met other folks who have put in money towards our operating, so.
Got it. Okay. So, and then I just wanted to make a note. I know probably most people on the committee know the whole, or maybe hopefully know the evolution of the beginning of Washington Square Park Conservancy, but there were certain guidelines and parameters that were supposed to be in place as the city parks department has run Washington Square Park for many years. And so, and my concern is sort of, I see an encroachment of seizing sort of more turf and confusion to the public as far as the differentiation of the roles, such as an email you sent out a few months ago that you were trying to decide whether the park would be closed because of the pandemic. And, the Parks Department alone is more than capable about making those decisions. And I know that you responded to someone that, well, whatever. I think there's a lot of places where the Parks Department managed for many, many years to be able to run Washington Square Park, and there just seems to be this encroachment, such as being able to maintain the art and the fountain if graffiti get on them. So, there just has to still be a differentiation, and I do feel that George Vilonikis, during his time period, maybe blurred the lines a little bit, but and, a lot of your emails say our staff is doing this, our staff is doing that. And now you've just explained, which I actually didn't know, that it was all done through a grant to the Parks Department, that it really is Parks Department staff. So I just would like to see just a little more clarity in the way you present information to the public. You mentioned here these programs, Washington Square Music Festival, the Folk Festival, Films on the Green. I mean, from my understanding, you're giving those organizations a $500 grant, which is not a huge amount of money. Those programs existed for many years without the help of the Conservancy. So I just feel, a little concerned that there's this massive encroachment and confusion to the public, and just to create the lines again. And maybe with George Vilonikis leaving, there can be a little bit more emphasis and thought put into just making it clear that the New York City Parks Department runs Washington Square Park, and just make your role very clear. You're there to raise money for the park, but it's just getting a little too blurred, in my opinion, from what I see. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Matt, would you like to speak?
Do I have my hand up?
Yeah, you do.
Sorry. Oh God. Oh no. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You don't have to.
I'll raise one point, which is, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I would have strongly supported is it PEP agents?
Yes, the PEP officers.
PEP officers and increase
please.
NYPD enforcement, and my pretty foundational faith in law enforcement has been pretty well shaken over the past 7 days. And so I would say any decisions I think should be pretty well thought out over time. And it probably not is your decision, but I'll take pressure anywhere I can put it. So
I think we hear what you're saying. Yeah.
I'm not sure that's a question.
It's not.
Sort of
It's
a
not.
comment, yeah.
Just
I
throwing
can tell you that when, Parks is a mayoral agency, NYPD is a mayoral agency, when there are, big rallies, big parades, it's the NYPD who makes decisions about whether, things are closed or open, and how they use the space of the park. So.
Okay.
I just curious, Cheryl, I haven't heard anything myself. Have you heard of any in the upcoming budgets and in the changes to the budgets and I know the city, the council speaker has asked the mayor to look at making some reductions to the budget. Have you heard of anything being cut regarding the parks budget, the Parks Department budget for Washington Square Park?
They're not giving us any specifics about, park level. I have some suspicions about what may happen. I don't want to talk about those until that actually happens. We know it's $80 million to the reduction in the parks budget, which, considerably a lot of money, with Parks's mediocre budget in the first place. So
yeah. I don't know what that means in terms of a percentage, but it would seem.
I know that, our commitment to keeping the staff that we support there is really important to us at this time. There's also other, and we say our staff because we do pay for them. And so, and it's our donors who pay for them. And so when we say our, we're including you, we're including the community who supports us. And to help pay those salaries. So that's our way of being inclusive to, to the folks who contribute. I see. And we're very proud that we support those staff members. Some of them didn't have jobs, before they came to us, and, they're really doing a great job. And we really see them as part of a family. And we don't try and make a distinction between those who are supported by parks, those who are supported by other private funds coming into Washington Square Park, and the folks that we support too. So.
Okay. Well, I appreciate. Let me just check chat one last time, see if there's anything else. Thank you. Agreed. There's something about skateboard. Rat ice.
Oh.
More rat ice.
Barbara Backer has.
Okay.
Rich, I am not a co-host anymore, so I can't bring her back in.
Okay. Let me find her. 1 second. Barbara is here and she can be allowed to talk. Go. Okay, Barbara, I think you're able to speak now. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Okay. Thank you for taking my comments, and I appreciate all the work that's happening in the parks. In the past discussion on the Mercer Street Park, this topic of skateboarding came up again and again and again. Some are for it, some are against. There's modification. My concern is the skateboarders in the park are bouncing off the Garibaldi statue. They are damaging it. This is not only damaging the statue, which has steps leading up to it all blackened, but they are also dishonoring this great general. And it concerns me. I go around the park a couple miles every day. I've talked with the parks people, the people on the ground, they say they're losing tremendous amounts of staff. They can't, guard the statute. The NYPD, the people I talked with, really feel it's not their job. They will monitor it if anything happens, but they aren't going to intervene. Now, these are from people, boots on the ground people. I'm not talking about the higher ups.
Yeah.
It seems to me that a lot of the skateboard, I asked one of the parks enforcement people, where are they all from? He said they're from all over. They're from different. My suggestion is, rather than going on and on with this enforcement, can we somehow get a working group with some of the skateboarders who we can sit down with and figure out what it is that they would want, that actually this is illegal in the park. There's signs all over that say skateboarding is illegal. So we need to look at their community too, I think, and how can we work with them? Because obviously this is not a new problem. It's been going on. It's getting worse. And with the mayor cutting the youth programs this summer, there are going to be more people out in the park, including. So we need to find out from them or their community people or whoever to find out where we can work together to solve this problem. I think it's not an unsolvable problem, but it's something we need input from everybody, not just continual enforcement. You can't do this, stop it. What is it they want? One of the supervisors I talked with said they don't like the skateboard parks, which are now closed. They don't like it. They aren't challenging enough. They like to be videotaped when they bounce off the statue. There's all kinds of thrills from that. So what can we do with them? I mean, it's what do they want? Where can we arrange to have them go? I think this is something that, as I said, not unsolvable, but we need a real community effort. And I'm not sure which community, since they come from various places. But it's going to get worse, and everyone seems to accept that this is where the skateboarders go. It's not a skateboarding park.
I'm not, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay. I'll go on and on about this.
No, look, I'm sorry. I believe that at this point in time, with all the issues that are facing us, and with all the challenges of kids not being in school and a lot of people not being in work and there are many issues that are there. When I've talked to the PEP officers, they don't feel like they can stop it, and they're not getting direction or from above to stop it. And the police, who will occasionally show enforce there. I don't know if you've seen it, where the police will actually drive the cars through the park when they feel that situation is getting a little stressful or tense. And I think that's right now there's a challenge in just priorities. As you say, the parks for the skateboarders aren't open. Their schools aren't open. And I think we're in a time right now when enforcing of it in the park is just not the highest priority. As for how to move forward and coming up with a solution, I think we're outside the realm of parks. I think we're into a much broader sense of issues that need to be addressed here. And I think this is a question for our elected officials, whether it's city council or it's probably city council, to see what they would suggest to do, balancing all the other challenges and all the other demands on budget. And so I think I would urge you to reach out to your elected officials. I will pledge to do the same. See if we can get an answer on this, because the skateboard thing is really part of a bigger, question of what's going to happen this summer, what people are going to be allowed to do, where they're going to be allowed to do it.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry I don't have a quick answer for you, but it's a very,
Well, yes, I appreciate you getting involved with it, because I have sent letters and talked with everybody, all my elected officials, my council person, my assembly member, my senator, Speaker Johnson. I mean, everybody knows about this and everybody says it's a problem and it's getting worse. But I know there's other much more major priorities perhaps right now, but I don't want to lose it. I agree. I don't want to have it get off the table that we are working on.
I agree. I'm afraid someone's going to get hurt. You know, skateboarders will accidentally run into somebody and then we'll wish that, you know, it had been addressed. The same with the bikes going through the park.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it's just a matter of time. Maybe,
there's already actually been incidents.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there have been, and the people suggested earlier that we put signs up, and signs don't work.
Yeah.
There are signs.
Yeah, I know there are signs, and they use the signs to jump over. So it's not. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So we've got to have, you know, some other kind of input there. And I don't know if the elected officials want to get into it more now. They have been involved in the past. I think. Maybe not now.
I know we've discussed the times putting on those, you know, installing those ridges that make it tough to skate off an edge. You know, we've done that in other parks on other benches, but I don't think people want to put that on the statues. But I agree. They mark it up. They, you know, all of the edges of the park are marked up. But Cheryl, I shouldn't have jumped in. Did you have anything?
No, that's okay. I was I've been in conversation with our electeds and a lot of folks about this. Like I said, we don't tend to do enforcement. That's not one of our mission areas, at least right now at the Conservancy. But we, reached out to our sector. Remind me of what they're called. The police who are assigned to Sector A. I reached out to those officers and thank you. Yeah, I reached out to those officers. They say, when they've done enforcement, they get a lot of pushback from the people in the park itself. And so, they feel a little bit under threat. Even the NYPD feels a little under threat, and they feel like they don't want to do something the community doesn't want to happen. And I was trying to convince them that no, the community does not want the skateboarding here. And, we're willing to do what we can to work with them. And, I had extended that. And unfortunately that was right before the pause. So they've got a lot of other things on their mind.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. But like I say, I don't want it to be lost somewhere, because this summer I'm really worried about it. And I'm worried about the kids doing it too. I just think they, they're tough but they're good kids, I think, a lot of them. And they just have a lot of energy now. Well, I can go on and on, but I thank you for listening and for getting involved as much as you can.
Yeah. One last thing before we leave. I don't have it in front of me. Cheryl, do you remember how much NYU contributes to the park? I
didn't write it down in my notes. I believe it's about 200,000 each year.
Yeah. I know I have it in previous notes. We've had it. I can look. You can search this.
I can look
too. Yeah.
In my notes as well. But yeah, I believe it's about 200,000 each year. It's like and their commitment goes through 2001.
And that's 2000. No, not 2001.
Sorry, 2021.
Right. So not forever. Yeah.
I wanted to go to the past. Sorry.
Right. And that was all right. Okay. Did you need a resolution on anything for on the George question, or did that pass? Cheryl?
I'm sorry?
Did you need a resolution regarding
I
George?
mean, George is a New York City Parks employee, and he's entitled to retire. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I thought there was something about.
If you have concerns or anything along those lines and want to discuss more, we're happy to come again, or
No, I thought there was something about if he had stayed on without being employee of the parks, but he's not. He's leaving both the Parks Department and he's leaving the Conservancy. That's the
correct.
He's leaving both roles.
So So someone presumably will take on both roles, right?
We don't know that as of yet. The Parks Department has committed to hire a deputy administrator, and right now that's what we know.
Deputy to whom?
Deputy to no one, because there's no administrator. It is a good question, Susanna.
I see. And so, because the idea was that the ED of the Conservancy was supposed to be the same person, so it's not clear what you guys are going to do. Is that what you're saying?
It's not clear what we're going to do. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You know, when we, and if we get to some point, you know, we'll let you know. But yes, we are structured to have a dual role employee. The position that the Parks Department is considering is not written that way. I think that's a budget issue.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just wanted to comment on two things. When we talk about the community in Washington Square Park, there are many communities in Washington Square Park. And I wouldn't necessarily say that everyone in the park is anti-skateboard. And the skateboard kids, they tend to use Garibaldi Plaza almost exclusively. And so whether that's a programming issue or we sort of cede that space to them and make the rest of the park for non-skateboarding, that's a conversation that, you know, the operations of parks should be in on. And maybe there needs to be a Parks Department level meeting about Washington Square Park. And my other comment is something that Cheryl said, that enforcement is not currently a mission area of the Conservancy. And I hope it never becomes a mission area of the Conservancy, because parks enforcement is a public duty. And I think we should keep it that way.
Okay. But George, would you agree, you are not, you would agree that today the rule is that there's no skateboarding in the park, correct?
Sorry, my hair is a little messy. I would agree that there are many things that are prohibited in Washington Square Park, including dogs off leash. And I'm in the park quite a lot, and there is differential enforcement about prohibited activities. And if we're going to be enforcing the rules, they need to be equally enforced for all the users of the park. So we can't just enforce no skateboarding because local people don't like it, and not enforce the no dogs off leash because a certain type of person has their dog off leash, for example.
Yeah, you know, I've never really considered the partial, that if something isn't being enforced, then maybe all rules shouldn't be enforced logic.
There's a lot of,
I'm just
there's
saying,
a lot of folks that I will see complaining about a rule not being enforced while they are not following a rule. There's a lot of regulations. If you've ever looked at New York City Parks list of rules and regulations, it's pretty long. I can kind of guarantee that every single one of you have broken a rule and regulation in Washington Square Park. Georgia, I would agree with you that there is that the enforcement isn't as even as it should be, and it creates resentments in the community. What I meant by the community, I meant that the number one issue that I hear from constituents, and if George was here, he would say the number one issue he hears from constituents is skateboarding. There are a lot of communities in Washington Square Park. There are a lot of uses that need to be, you know, that need to be considered. You know, the rules and regulations are there so that most people can enjoy it.
Right.
And I'm getting into parks territory now, so I'll stop. But
just curious, have you heard anything about drug use and drug sales in the corners? Is that
it continues?
Okay.
It continues.
There's been an uptick. There was a lull for a while, but it's come back.
It's come back, and that being against the law, you know, that's the when we have had that enforced, it's generally been the police department.
Well, part of the issue is there's also no there's inadequate social distancing within that community in the northwest corner. So that's also sort of like a public health issue there, in addition to whatever else people might find to be uncivil behavior. Yeah.
Or illegal.
Larger public.
I mean, we're not talking about park legality. We're talking about law, laws as in selling of drugs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rich,
Yeah, right.
I like to make the distinction between park rules and New York City laws.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. It's getting late. Art, I wanted to give you one more chance. Art, do you still have your hand up? I think we may have lost him. Art, I'm not sure if we didn't take your hand off last time, or you wanted to make another point.
Just a quick question for Cheryl. Yeah. I'm not sure if this is in your field of expertise, but do you know if anything's being done for the facilities in terms of social distancing for the men's room, the ladies' room?
Right now, I don't believe they're limiting, like, there's a natural number of people who can be in the facilities just because of the number of, there's usually lines at this time of the year. There seem to be much less, except for this week. There were a number of large protests that went through Washington Square. So there are maintenance folks. Those two full-time maintenance staff members who we brought on were meant to stick close to the facilities to maintain them. They've actually been doing extra cleaning, but I'll talk to Jamal about, I'll be talking to Jamal about a lot of things after this conversation, but I, I'll add that to the list.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. All right, I'd like to transition into business session here and see if we can, if the members of the committee will stay. Cheryl, before you leave, somehow you become the host.
Oh, the host. Oh, let me just give it
see
back
if you can,
to you.
if
Hold
you
on.
can give it back to me, yeah.
Yeah.
And members, if you could hang out for a minute, anyone can stay, but I'd like to talk about what we might do on a resolution for the first point, the first one, the Mercer Playground. Janine, are you able to speak now?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thanks. And thanks everyone for attending. And sorry it went for so long. I guess it's because we haven't had meetings in a while that we want to get through these three topics. So I wanted to, it is getting late. I wanted to just see, I'm sort of torn on this Mercer Playground, how we might write a resolution on this. And I think there are a few, there's a spectrum of options here. There's one that says we can't, I think there's an honest possibility here is that we just say that in the current environment, we can't seem to find a solution that is balancing, some of the desired uses of the park and some of the concerns about how it would operate and the issues that it might raise. But if anyone has a way to sort of
yeah, Rich, I was looking at the old resolution we had from February, and I sent it to the three people on the call who aren't on the committee. Other than I didn't send it to William Benesh because I don't have your email, so it's on the website under February. But we specifically asked for them to incorporate the two ends of the park, which did not happen. They did give us an updated design. We do have, let's see, we have Andrew Chang still on the call, but Anthony Drummond dropped off. I mean, the reality is to make this something that people would want, it would have to be substantial. There would have to be substantially more money. And that's unlikely to happen right now. And then if we get these renovations, does that mean nothing happens for 20 years? And we live with sort of this cruddy park for 20 years. And then the only other thing I want to clarify on, I think we heard lots of people who want skateboarding, and we heard from lots of people who don't want skateboarding.
Mm-hmm.
Our resolution in February did not say it should be a skateboarding park, because I think there was some confusion on that. I mean, it's basically an open park. And of course, my wish for what the park would have been would be, when I take myself off the screen.
Yeah, I think you're dropping off there, but yeah, again, things change over time. There's a certain amount of money that NYU had agreed to donate. Yeah.
And that's packed with kids. Yeah, the West 10 Park, but I'm going to cover it again, but
yeah.
That was Friday night, packed with kids. And one thing that, a spruce up, the only reason to go forward is the spruce up will reduce the unsavory uses of the park, and it falls into the better than nothing category.
Yeah. So that's the problem. I mean, again, this is where we find ourselves. It's June's different time than February. The status of the city's a different time. The likelihood of getting money from city council members is very limited, if not impossible. We have a budget that NYU has agreed to donate. It seems that they're not pulling out on that. The question is, what do we do for 300 and what is it, 380, what do I have in my notes? 385,000, 350. Yeah. And look, it's legitimate as a committee to say we can't come to a resolution and we don't want that money spent because we don't think we're going to make a better situation.
Can't we ask for what Janine wants? I mean, now it's June and we're living in a pandemic and we will have to social distance until there's a vaccine. And this neighborhood is in desperate need of unstructured open space so people can be outdoors, so physically distance, and we have to face the reality. And it's likely that this will not be the only kind of pandemic of this nature that we face. And so this is kind of an opportunity to respond to what we're going through now and what we might face in the future.
How does that make you feel about the design? I'm trying to understand that.
So, I mean, I think with that design, you can't really if you're not on wheels, you can't use the middle versus something that's less design programmed. If it's AstroTurf or whatever, it's more amenable to lots of different ways of using this space.
Yeah. The mounds in Washington Square Park were much, much bigger. And I just never used those. My kids weren't, they were gone before my kids would have used them. For people who, the 15-inch and 18-inch, I guess that may be fun if you're just learning to skateboard. I mean, what other advantages is that?
Well, I mean, I think that one of the things that I heard out of this presentation was an attempt to kind of thread the needle and create a space that would be interesting for active play for younger kids and not so interesting for active play for adults and normal skateboarders. That's sort of what I thought I was doing. And it seemed successful. I mean, it seems successful. I mean, either you say it's not going to be an active play area and then take off all the mounds and I mean, if you're going to allow bikes in there, and kids playing, you can't expect them to really cohabitate very well. I mean, it has to be dominated by one or the other, or someone's going to get bumped into. So it seemed to me that the path that this design took was to make it an active play area.
For preteens.
Yeah, for preteens. And
preteens
go in.
Yeah.
And younger.
Kids go in and start wrecking it up, of all the skateboarders from Washington Square Park, and that becomes an operational problem.
Right.
I don't think it's a design issue.
I mean, I'm going to, within a year or two, nobody older than there's a bike in there. I mean, it's just, when you're older than that, you're not going to want to ride a bike in circles.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, just, if it was a nicer, and the reality is if people want to play on grass, even though there's signs that say no ball playing, they go to put the Picasso statue when it's not.
Look, we've talked about this for a long time, and we've got people in the neighborhood who don't agree with the design, and there's no agreement on it. They're concerned about the noise, and they live in an environment where there's going to be a ton of noise. I sometimes equations are not solvable, and I just don't see a way to do this. We've got we don't have agreement on this. The people
Well, I don't know if that's fair. The very first meeting that we had, the majority of people at that very first meeting were pro skateboard for young kids.
Okay,
that packed room.
Right.
And it was, I would say, 90% of the people who spoke in favor of some kind of skate wheel use environment for kids who were pre-teen and younger. I clearly recall that. I
believe you.
Recorded it in my notes on my phone.
Right.
And there were some people who were against wheels, but the majority were for wheels. And I think with any kind of design, there are always going to be people who are unhappy. And I know this is not a perfect situation, but I don't want I think people are more unhappy with the current state of the playground than they are with the proposed design.
I don't know. I heard somebody, I believe you when you said that meeting several, it was about a year ago now, I guess. But I heard people 2 hours ago who live there speak very passionately about not wanting a design that's going to increase the noise and increase the potential for activities like skateboarding to take place there.
But I think they're confusing
that increased noise, we wouldn't build anything.
Yeah, I mean, like if you
like
want,
it's New York City. I don't know.
Why I
It
raised
feels like we asked Parks for X.
Right.
We asked whoever for X, and they gave us, in my opinion, very, very, very close to X. And it feels a little silly to go back and say, well, now we couldn't come up with confirmation. I mean, we already asked them for X and they delivered.
What do you want to say to the 10 people who spoke today?
I'm sorry.
I mean, what's the concern about, the promise is to close the gates at dusk. I mean, that's what happens with a park. People make noise during the day and then it's quiet at night. I mean,
Well, their concern is it won't be.
Well, then you want to cross that bridge when you come to it. You don't not build a park because some people are worried about noise.
You don't build the design that was presented.
Well, it's not active play. I mean, the thing is, it's either active or it's not active. If you want to make it all passive or for toddlers, but we heard the community say that the toddlers is not, they want.
It's an active park, period. I mean, a question, is it? So.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to support this with caveats that we really want to, I mean, just in this environment, we're just not going to, I'm just doubtful about, I hate to negotiate against myself, but the money is just not going to be there.
It's not. And, the truth is it's not. You're absolutely right.
So I think we want to spend on this. I mean, in the grand scheme of things.
You do.
I do not want additional city funds.
I agree.
Spent on
agree.
This.
I totally agree.
We have $300,000. It will be a nice park.
And I will.
There are people with significantly greater needs right now.
Yeah, I agree.
In my opinion.
Yeah. So is this the best is this what we can get? Is this the best we can get for this amount of money?
And now we have a plan for what comes next for phase 2 and 3. And, we can comment on that, I think.
And I feel like NYU will eventually chip in more. This will be in front of their brand spanking new building that will house faculty. There'll be a performance space. I mean, if they do anything on the Northern Block, they will have to invest more to raise the bar for this space.
Rich, is it also fair to reflect in the resolution the concern over, obviously to reflect the concern over the possibility of the space being used by the wrong
we can. We can say there should be signage, and we can even say there should be hours where it's dedicated to certain groups, or or first I mean, there are parks that are only for younger kids. Right on LaGuardia, there is a park. It's it's only for little kids. We could say that, we don't want you know, that we can put in all sorts of signage and regulations and guidelines and all that, and we can debate whether it's going to be, you know, whether it's going to be operationally, you know, enforced. I mean, I'm just, you know, in the environment, I don't think we're going to get more money, and I don't think we have consensus from the community. And I'm very, very conscious that for 20 years, this area is going to be a construction zone, where during the hours of, you know, whatever construction, 7 to 4, whatever construction will be extremely loud. And
But
I don't know.
Rich, I mean, are you proposing that we either say, like, don't do anything because there's not enough money and we're not quite sure what the design, but because one thing I seem to hear loud and clear was that what was there now is horrible.
Yeah, but
That's why this came about, because there were so many complaints of what was there.
yeah, but their concern is that this would be worse.
No, I didn't get that feeling.
I did.
I didn't hear that from one person. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Then tell me how do you write a resolution that conveys the concerns of the people who live across the street and who live in the neighborhood, who feel that you know, that if it became a destination for skateboarders with a lower fence, et cetera, and, you know,
we support the proposed design. We very much appreciate all of the time and effort that has gone into it.
Yeah.
We understand that there is community, you know, that there is select community opposition to in my opinion, generalized to skateboarding. We strongly encourage parks to develop a robust, you know, system. I mean, you know, it's how you find compromise in any situation. But I think the idea of not doing it is in my mind off the table.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think that we recognize, you know, they said that the gates would all be closed at 9 o'clock, and
yeah.
You know, that's very important because of the concerns that the neighborhood has about skateboarders and noise, you know, beyond a decent hour. And, you know, we emphasize that in the resolution, and that reflects the concerns of people.
Yeah, I also think you can make the resolution more broad in saying that we support the best design that parks can do under the current conditions with the money. Because that's what we do. We want it to be the best design that parks has done, you know, with the money. And I think we really should not take a penny for granted. Because even the money that's right now may not go into it. And so I just think it would be a real mistake to not take every cent we can take for parks right now as quickly as possible. Because this budget's going to be horrible. So, like, you know, for the next few years, we're going to have no parks money. So I just think, like, you know, in a perfect world, yeah, we want more. Of course we want more. We always want more. But it would be, I think, a horrible thing for this community and for any park to not get every cent it can right now.
I'm not. So what is? I don't know what that means. Here are our options. Let me explain. We have the option of saying we don't have an agreement. And at this point in time, we can't see a path forward. Nobody likes that. That's just an option on the table.
No.
The next option is we should do a design that is not this design, and we can say, go back to the drawing board. This is not the right design.
No.
Okay.
I think the resolution is we support this design.
Yes.
Caveated with the. And frankly, I would say we strongly support. I strongly support.
Yeah. I think because they need that to be able to defend the money.
I agree.
You know, it comes down to it. So we say that, and we just, you know what? The community doesn't always agree, and that's why there's a community board and a committee to make these decisions. It's our decision to make the best decision for the community, and that is allocating money to parks right now.
Yeah, I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm trying, but I'm also trying.
No, but that's ridiculous. These, you know, because a few people showed up and they're in the middle of a pandemic and in a bad mood, and like, you know, mess up open space in downtown Manhattan, and later be like, I was in a bad mood that night. I'm sorry.
Well, you know, I have to say, I did not hear anyone say, I did not hear anyone tonight say we don't want that park.
Right.
I heard concerns about unintended consequences, but I did not hear anyone say we don't want to see that park redone. So,
but do they want to see that design? They said they don't want to see that design.
I think it's the word skateboarding that's turned people off, and little kids on skateboards are totally different than teenagers and young adult men in Washington Square Park grinding on the surfaces. And I think maybe there's some like linguistic challenge or perception challenge. It's an active use space for children 11 and younger to skate, to bike, to scoot. It is not a skate park. It's just not a skate park. And I think we shouldn't put it as a skate park in the resolution because it's not.
No one's saying it is. They're concerned that it will become utilized in that way by people older than 11.
Offering to make the closing earlier.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's an operational question. I don't think it's a design question. I think that they've done the design as well as they can to discourage older use. I think it becomes an operational question, and we can write that into the resolution.
Yeah, I think it'll make people feel more amenable if we limit the hours, especially for that age. They're probably indoors by 8.
Oh, that's a good point.
I also
Limit
think
the hours.
we can say it's operated in a way that's sensitive to ongoing community concerns, because the community may change, people may move. You know, it's of course we expect them to do that, but to directly address the input is, you know, we expect it to be operated in a way that's sensitive to community concerns.
That's good. Both what
playgrounds are
Georgia
open
said.
dawn to dusk, so you know.
Yeah.
What's that? What was that, Janine? I'm sorry.
Playgrounds are open dawn to dusk. So
Yeah,
the
it is. I thought
this
dusk
would be
was
open till 9 o'clock and like for a week in the summer.
Yeah, I
if
thought
we went with that.
all right. So I think we note there were significant, again, not so much design questions, but operations questions. And, you know, we want to, you know, design operations, including the limiting hours in a way that is sensitive to community concern. And I think, you know, optimizes to the target age group.
Right.
Right. Okay. All right. I can take a shot at that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. I don't think, all right. So that was that. Any concerns on the second one, on the Mercer one? Let me take a shot at that. I'll cycle
No,
that was,
that was sort of a no-brainer, other than we're lamenting the lost cherry trees.
Oh,
Yeah.
those cherry trees.
And the spice berries, we wish there were spice berries.
Oh, the service berries, the fruits are
Service
edible.
berries.
So,
I was
you
hoping
know,
they were
if
poison.
once they turn purple, you can get to them before the birds. So
And by the way, I'm not sure everyone knew the 181 is supposed to be a public atrium.
Yeah,
like
we learned
everyone should access it. So
oh, you mean like the former Coles?
yeah, the former Coles,
Like a pub.
but accessible. Yeah, accessible. All right, everyone. Let me try. So I will write 2 resolutions. I'll try to write them quickly so everyone remembers. I'm sorry it took so long today. There were technical difficulties.
Ask a question.
Yeah, what was that?
We get for the fall, I imagine, Jamal Patterson to come before community board if he's the interim
Yeah.
parks administrator, or if they assign the new deputy. I think it would be really great to introduce these individuals to the community and to hear from them about their goals for the park.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's Jamal's going to be the person through the summer. There are different rumors.
Okay.
I just not necessarily even rumors. There's just no guarantee that Jamal will be that person.
But whoever.
But whoever's there, we can get to come in. You know, I really wanted Steve to stay in and give some guidance, but he dashed out.
Yeah, there's a lot to discuss in relationship to that part.
Right. And just so everyone knows. I mean, the George thing had been going on for a while, and there was a little bit of question as to, you know, when he was going to leave, and whether he was going to leave or both roles or try to keep one role and be paid in a different way, and all that stuff kind of was happening. I guess that's why they weren't ready to discuss it.
Well, you know, it's been tricky. The question of having one person do 2 roles has always been a little murky for some people in the community, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
But, you know, it's been presented to us as the most efficient way to ensure that the Conservancy is working in the interests of the park. There are some people who feel that it's a way of getting the park to follow what the Conservancy wants.
Yeah.
We'll have to see how that unfolds for them. And I mean, I think that Catherine's concerns always are about, you know, the hold of the park, and it's, we know that those roles are clear, but because of the way it gets presented, because Cheryl's the only one there right now, it gets, I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it seems to me that only Cheryl seems to be the only voice that has a problem with it. It doesn't seem like it's a widespread issue.
I wouldn't say that.
What issue? What issues?
The problem with having the same, having one person run in both roles, it just doesn't seem like that's some widespread issue. It seems like a very few number of people who have an issue with it.
I'm not sure.
Right.
I think
wouldn't say that.
I think there are
It was
events
a big
that
deal at
happen.
the beginning, but the you know, it's been mitigated by the way the Conservancy has acted.
Right.
I think we might need to wait a little bit of time too, because Mitch retired, which is like a big loss for
Good
parks.
call. Yeah.
You know, so Mitch is retired, George is gone. I mean, like,
George is retired.
like,
yeah.
we have whatever. So George retired and Mitch retired, and they're both Washington Square and all the downtown. And we don't have like, I mean, what are they going to do with all the additional expectations they have right now too for opening the playground? So I think they have a lot to manage right now and may not be ready to communicate for a while.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think you're absolutely right.
Not because it's holding, just because they got to fix. I don't know how they're going to do that.
Plus the budget hole. Yeah, I don't know either. I would think the obvious point here is that the Conservancy is probably more important than ever for keeping the park safe, you know, and clean and beautiful. Because now some might say the parks will cut more of the budget because you know the Conservancy's there to pick them up. But you know, there is some amount of money, $600,000 that goes to the park through the Conservancy. So
That's a lot of money. That's good. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, and I don't think we should take that for granted, because people reallocate their donations towards public health or other things right now, not the lack of love for the Conservancy. So the Conservancy may well have a very difficult year.
Yeah. Well, I think we're breaking all attendance records at the
I know,
park.
really.
Rich, quick question.
Full board meeting, Rich.
No, I'm saying the park. Sorry.
Call it.
Harvey, I'm sorry. Yeah, Matt had a comment.
Question. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Matt, go ahead.
Very quickly. Are we? I'll say I'll encourage as much whatever in Parks Committee regarding Hudson. Why am I blanking on this? Hudson River Park Trust. Yeah. And social distancing.
Yes.
In parks, and I feel like community involvement in what is acceptable and what is expected is incredibly important. And I feel like we have, at community board, not been certainly as forceful as I would like, although I know I'm on the fringes, but as forceful as I think we could be and as could be helpful. And I feel like that falls under our purview, but I don't know. So just a thought.
Okay. All right. Sorry, everyone. At some point I gave up on trying to make the meeting shorter, but thanks for bearing with us.
Good night.
Take care, everyone. Thanks for contributing, everybody, and you know, everyone stay safe. And
thanks.
All right.
You too, Rich.
See ya.
Bye, Shirley.
9 is too late. Yes, I agree.
Michael.
Yeah. Good night. Okay.